Chapter 1431. In just a few breaths, the ripples on the surface of the river gradually shrank and looked like it was about to disappear. Ning Cheng dispelled the idea of going inside to investigate. He didn't have to enter the Sacred Domain River from here. The surface of the Sacred Domain River must have appeared due to the fluctuations of his realm creation. His current strength was many times stronger than when he was at the second step. The stronger he became, the more Ning Cheng knew his shortcomings. In the vast universe, there were too many powerhouses. He could cut through the Tao creation realm and reach the third step. How could he know if there were any powerhouses like him before him? As the surface of the light and dark universe, how could the Sacred Domain River be so simple? If he wanted to enter the Sacred Domain River, he would have to go through the place he had explored before. The light and darkness treasure tree gradually faded, and the rainbow also slowly dissipated. The heart of light and darkness seemed to have returned to its original appearance. Only Ning Cheng knew that he had devoured many heaven and earth laws here. When he first came in, the heart of light and darkness had devoured his darkness Tao charm. At this time, he had already devoured it hundreds of millions of times. It was time to go out. Ning Cheng didn't do anything to the light and darkness treasure tree. The light and darkness treasure tree belonged to the light and dark universe, so it was best for the light and dark universe to stay here. Ning Cheng might not have realized this before, but after his world formed, he realized how difficult it was to form a world. Maybe one day, his world would also give birth to a tree with the same heaven and earth laws. He naturally wouldn't let others take away this tree. What's more, after he reached the third step, the light and darkness treasure tree's usefulness to him had declined infinitely. After seeing the light and darkness treasure tree, Yuan Mao only paused for a few breaths before he could no longer hold back, and stepped into the heart of light and darkness without hesitation. The light and darkness treasure tree didn't have much attraction to Ning Cheng at this time, but it was a treasure of heaven and earth for Yuan Mao. The moment Yuan Mao entered the heart of light and darkness, the light and darkness treasure tree no longer appeared in front of him. The chaotic laws around him constantly devoured the Tao charm around him, making it difficult for him to even take half a step. A sense of fear welled up in his heart. Even though he knew that the heart of light and darkness had a slim chance of survival, he still felt afraid when faced with such a terrifying scene. It was rumored that only one person could come out after entering the heart of light and darkness. That person was Nong Shimu. However, every time he asked Nong Shimu would just smile and not answer him directly. In his opinion, even if he was not as powerful as Nong Shimu, the difference would not be too great. Now that he was standing in the depths of the heart of light and darkness, the Tao runes and laws around him were constantly being devoured. Only then did he understand why almost none of those who entered the heart of light and darkness could come out. At the same time, he also knew how big the gap between him and Nong Zimu was. If he, Yuan Mao, couldn't find a way to solve the problem of his Tao charm being devoured, he would end up like the gray bones beneath his feet. Ning Cheng easily stepped out of the heart of light and dark. At the same time, he saw Yuan Mao enter the heart of light and dark. Ning Cheng shook his head. He was simply too lazy to care about Yuan Mao. Even if Yuan Mao's cultivation was stronger than his before he reached the third step, it would be extremely difficult for him to come out after entering. As for him going in and adding fuel to the fire to kill Yuan Mao, Ning Cheng did not have such an idea. The depths of the heart of light and darkness looked very small from the outside, but in fact, it was extremely vast inside. Who knew how long it would take to find Yuan Mao? Besides, although Yuan Mao wanted the things on him, he had still helped him a little, so he should just let him fend for himself. Ning Cheng did not immediately leave this place, rather entered the mysterious yellow bead. Thousands of years had passed since he started creating worlds. Over the past few thousand years, Ning Cheng didn't know how chasing bulls cultivation had improved. Ning Cheng had just entered the mysterious yellow bead, and hadn't even had the time to observe chasing bull's realm with his spiritual consciousness when his heart moved slightly. The underworld crow ghost Rat Tan King woke up. Since the underworld crow ghost Rat Tan King fell into a deep slumber, it hadn't woken up. Who would have thought that he would wake up at this moment? Master! As soon as the underworld crow ghost Rat Tan King woke up, it immediately sent out a thought in surprise. Ning Cheng could feel the joy from the underworld crow ghost Rat Tan King. but it was more concentrated on the light and dark treasure tree. It's just that after he entered the mysterious yellow bead, the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King could no longer sense the light and darkness treasure tree. That's right, he's already at the Tao modeling realm. It looks like all these years have not been wasted in vain. Ning Chung spoke up with appreciation. The cultivation of plant spirits was much more difficult, especially at high levels. Being able to sculpt one's Tao was an opportunity among opportunities. Ordinary plant spirits would be snatched away before they could even take shape. If this underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King wasn't by Ning Cheng's side, it wouldn't have been able to sculpt its Tao even if it took another 1,000 or 5,000 years. After the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King reached Tao sculpting, it would definitely be able to transform. Sure enough, the next moment, the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King, which was only a foot tall and had a hint of verdant grayness, fell to the ground. The underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King's transformation almost made Ning Chung laugh out loud. This underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King's aesthetic sense was too poor. This head looked like a small square stool with 2 eyes and a mouth in the middle. Even if it wanted to transform, wouldn't it be a round head? This fellow. Fortunately, the verdant face indicated that it wasn't a human, but a spiritual plant transformation. Master Little Bull is here. Congratulations to Master for achieving the Tao and controlling heaven and earth. Little Bull's cultivation has also improved under Master's brilliance. Ning Cheng didn't even need to look back to know that Chasing Bull had come over. Chasing Bull's strength had advanced from the Tao sculpting realm to the Tao birth realm. From the looks of it, cutting off the meat to stew soup had a great impact on it. It no longer slacked off in its cultivation. Hey, aren't you a little ghost Rot Tan? Why are you carrying a small stool? Chasing Bull came over while wagging its tail. After respectfully flattering Ning Chung, it immediately saw the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King. Chasing Bull didn't show much respect when speaking to the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King. The underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King glared at Chasing Bull and thought, "You're the small stool. Don't look at you as a Tao birth realm cultivator. I'm just a Tao sculpting cultivator. If it weren't for Master's sake, I would have sucked dry this stupid bull. Master, I just felt the aura of a spiritual plant's origin." After the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King glared at Chasing Bull, it immediately asked Ning Chung about the light and darkness treasure tree. Ning Chung waved his hand. That's the heaven and earth splitting tree of this universe. Not to mention that you can't get it now. Even if you could, you wouldn't have the ability to devour it. Or rather, I won't let you devour it. Sure enough, this fellow woke up because of the light and darkness treasure tree. Ning Chung shook his head speechlessly. The light and darkness treasure tree had a much higher grade compared to the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King. Even if he obtained the light and darkness treasure tree, he wouldn't let the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King devour it. Yes, Master. The underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King lowered the small stool helplessly. Master. Just as Chasing Bull called out, Ning Chung suddenly waved his hand, and his expression turned cautious. At the same time he said, "Step aside." Before the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King could understand what was going on, Chasing Bull pulled the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King and said, "Small stool, hurry up and leave. Don't disturb Master's thoughts." The underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King, who wanted to quarrel with Chasing Bull, quickly shut up after seeing Ning Cheng's dignified expression, and left with Chasing Bull. What that fellow said turned out to be true. Ning Cheng's gaze fell on the mysterious yellow bead space, and he muttered to himself with a cold tone. Inside his mysterious yellow bead, there was a law that was slightly different from the surrounding laws. Before Ning Chung stepped into the third step, or rather, before he condensed his own laws to reach the third step, he wouldn't have been able to see this difference. But now that he had condensed his own laws to create a world and stepped into the third step, he felt this law as soon as he entered the mysterious yellow bead. Outsiders wouldn't enter his mysterious yellow bead, but this heaven and earth law was different from the original laws. There was only one reason for it: the previous owner of the mysterious yellow bead. As for the reason, Ning Chung guessed that it was the same as what the void voice in the slaughter world had told him. This heaven and earth law had guided the previous owner of the mysterious yellow bead to come here and turn Ning Chung into a spirit of good fortune. Ning Cheng sneered and didn't touch the law at all. He wanted to see who this fellow was. You stay here and cultivate. I'll go to the radiant sacred domain first, and then find a way back. Ning Cheng left Chasing Bull and the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King before leaving the mysterious yellow bead. Chasing Bull had walked for many years to reach the periphery of the heart of light and darkness from the radiant sacred domain. But now, Ning Cheng had returned to the first sacred lord region of the radiant sacred domain from the heart of light and darkness in just a few days. This was the difference in strength, a qualitative difference. After stepping into the third step, he no longer controlled heaven and earth laws, but his own laws. Ning Cheng knew that he had just created a world, and the laws he condensed were still in their embryonic form. Once his laws became more complete, even if he was still in the creation realm, he was confident that he could step into the sacred lord region from the heart of light and darkness in just half a day. Once he integrated his own world and stepped into the amalgamation realm, he might be able to reach the sacred lord region from the heart of light and darkness in just a few steps. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept into the caves of sacred lord Ju Jin and one of the 10 Dao monarchs, Yuxi, without any fear. If someone slapped him on the left side of his face, he would immediately deliver the right side. It was not Ning Cheng's nature to not take revenge. He had come here to destroy the Yu clan's cave, and then kill Yuxi and Ju Jin. To Ning Cheng's regret, Yuxi and Ju Jin were not in the cave. Not only were these two not here, but even Tangshi was not here. If Tangshi was here, Ning Cheng might not have killed him, but he would have taught this old thing a lesson. Unfortunately, he did not encounter any of them. Ning Cheng did not hesitate to step into the void, and directly stepped on the heart of the Yu clan's defensive array formation. With Ning Cheng's current cultivation and understanding of the array Dao, just this step was enough to shatter the Yu clan's defensive array formation. Not only that, Ning Cheng once again punched out and destroyed Yuxi's immortal cave. The people from the Yu clan could not even touch Ning Cheng's shadow. Although he would not start a massacre in the Yu clan, Ning Cheng did not show any mercy when he destroyed the Yu clan's defensive array and Yuxi's cave. If Yuxi was here, he would have killed him on the spot. Even if Ju Jin was not in the Sacred Lord Mansion, Ning Cheng would not let him off. After destroying the Sacred Lord Mansion's array formation, Ning Cheng also turned Ju Jin's Sacred Lord Mansion into ruins. I destroyed the Lei Fu Dao Gate. Aren't you a bird, Ju Jin? Today, I'll destroy your Sacred Lord Mansion again. I'm not afraid of you coming for me. I'm afraid that you won't come for me. After destroying these two places, Ning Cheng took out the jade talisman Nong Shirhua gave him, and prepared to recall the 5-colored star splitter bow. Chapter 1432. When Ning Cheng left unhurriedly, not to mention the Sacred Master Mansion and the Yu clan, even the entire Sacred Master region was alarmed. Someone had come to the Sacred Master region and destroyed the cave mansion of Yuxi, one of the 10 great Dao monarchs. He had even destroyed the Sacred Master Mansion's grand array and cave mansion. This was a challenge to the entire radiant sacred sky. Countless experts came out of seclusion. It was simply inconceivable for such a thing to happen in the Sacred Master region. What was even more unbelievable was that no one had seen who destroyed the Sacred Master Mansion and the Yu clan. How could they fight the enemy if they didn't see it? According to the people of the Yu clan who saw this scene, they only saw a huge footprint. This footprint destroyed the Yu clan's grand array restriction. Fortunately, that expert didn't seem to have started a massacre. Otherwise, no one from the Yu clan would have survived. 8 of the 10 Dao monarchs of the Sacred Master region weren't around. The other 2 Dao monarchs immediately gathered outside the destroyed Sacred Master Mansion. At the same time, they sent the news to the other Dao monarchs, including Sacred Master Ju Jin and Yuxi. This wasn't a trivial matter. If an expert from Darkness Sky came here, and the Sacred Master region didn't even see the corner of his robe, the Sacred Master region would be in danger. Apart from the 10 great Dao monarchs, who else could stop such an expert? After the 2 Dao monarchs saw the ruins of the Sacred Master Mansion, they didn't chase after the enemy except to send the message. Perhaps the 2 of them knew that with their strength, even if they chased after the enemy, they would just be throwing away their lives. This is a peerless expert. I'm afraid he isn't any weaker than Brother E. A burly man with blue hair sighed. This person was one of the 10 great Tao monarchs of the radiant sacred region, the patriarch of the true world sacred sect, Lei Sha. The man standing next to him had a pale face and was dressed like a Confucian scholar. He was also a realm integration expert. He was the patriarch of the Radiant Sacred Region's Space Trade Association, Yinsen, one of the 10 great Tao monarchs. Yinsen frowned and didn't answer Lei Sha's words. Lei Sha continued, "Brother Yin, I'm afraid this wasn't done by someone from Darkness Sky. Even if Darkness Sky wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, they wouldn't have such an expert." Moreover, Lei Sha paused. Yinsen understood what Lei Sha meant. The expert from Darkness Sky couldn't come at this time. Yinsen sighed and said, "If I'm not wrong, we all know this person." "Who is it?" Lei Sha asked subconsciously, and before Yinsen could answer, he understood and exclaimed, "You mean the first outsider to enter the light vault?" Yinsen nodded solemnly. "It shouldn't be wrong. Who has a grudge against him?" Back in the Radiant Treasury, other than Sage Lord Ju, there was also Brother Yu who wanted to kill him. Now that Brother Yu and Sage Master Ju's immortal abodes were destroyed, and their immortal abodes were also destroyed, who else could it be other than him? As for Brother Tang, I'm afraid he only let him off because of Tang Hua. Lei Sha took a deep breath and said in shock, "Could it be that what Brother Yi said was true? He didn't find this person? Besides, this person shouldn't be so powerful, right? It seems like that's the case. I'm sure Brother Yi knows that no one will believe him no matter how he explains. That's why he's too lazy to explain." As for Ning Cheng's strength, he was already at the perfected Tao integration realm back then, and because of the treasures in the Radiant Treasury, he might have already reached the third step, Yinsen said. Lei Sha did not doubt Yinsen's words. Yinsen was a meticulous thinker, and was famous for being wise among the 10 Tao lords. "Brother Yin, there was no news of Brother Yi during the battle between Sacred Light Sect and Dark Sky. Where do you think he went?" Lei Sha asked again. During the battle with Dark Sky, Yuan Mao was the only one missing from the 10 Tao lords of the Radiant Sacred Region. At that time, everyone, including Zhu Jin, thought that Yuan Mao had obtained Ning Cheng's item and gone into seclusion. If Yuan Mao did not kill Ning Cheng, then Yuan Mao obviously did not go into seclusion. 5,000 years ago, Brother Yi left the Radiant Sacred Region in a hurry, and there was no news of him after that. Now that Ning Cheng has appeared here, I'm afraid that Brother Yi has met with misfortune. Yinsen's tone contained a hint of sorrow. Even an expert like Yuan Mao had fallen in pursuit of something. How could they avoid the same fate in the future? By now, Ning Cheng had already arrived at the periphery of the 5-colored Star Splitter Plaza. When Nong Shirua had given him the Jade Talisman, Ning Cheng had only felt grateful. He knew very well that with his perfected Tao integration strength, it would be very difficult for him to take away the 5-colored Star Splitter Bow without the Jade Talisman. The 5-colored Star Splitter Plaza's defense array had completely fused with the 5-colored Star Splitter Bow. Once he tried to take the 5-colored Star Splitter Bow, not to mention the Bow's threat, even the entrapment array, and the 10 Tao lords would be difficult to deal with. Now that the Jade Talisman appeared in Ning Cheng's hand again, anger surged in his heart. The Jade Talisman contained a strand of Soul Tao Rune. Once he crushed the Jade Talisman, this strand of Soul Tao Rune would fuse with his essence spirit, and be controlled by someone else. The person who could control him was undoubtedly Nong Shirua. Ning Cheng and Nong Shirua had stayed together before, so he naturally knew her aura. He couldn't sense it back when he was at Tao integration. But now that he had successfully created a world and condensed his own laws to fuse with the world, he could sense it the moment he held the Jade Talisman. With Ning Cheng's current cultivation, even if this strand of Soul Tao Rune fused with his essence spirit, he could still peel it off. But he still couldn't get over it. He had saved Nong Shirua's life, so why would Nong Shirua do this? No, Ning Cheng immediately understood the reason behind it. Nong Shirua didn't do it, and even Nong Shirua herself didn't know about it. Nong Shirua had also saved his life. With Nong Shirua's character, she would never do such a thing. It was Nong Shimu's doing. When Nong Shimu gave the Jade Talisman to his daughter, he had already prevented anyone from harming his daughter. If his daughter, Nong Shirua, crushed the Jade Talisman, it wouldn't affect her in the slightest. Once someone crushed the jade talisman, they would have to obey Nong Shirua's orders and become her puppet. When Nong Shirua gave him the jade talisman, she didn't know that the jade talisman could be controlled by a soul. After Ningcheng understood this point, he felt a lot more relaxed in his heart. He didn't like the feeling of being betrayed by a friend. He and Nong Shirua had both saved each other's lives, and it could be considered as a friendship of life and death. If he was betrayed because of this, he wouldn't feel good about it. As a friend, if Nong Shirua said that she wanted the 5-colored star splitter bow, he would definitely give it to her. However, this Nong Shimu couldn't see through the soul Dao runes engraved on it. From this, it showed that this fellow wasn't simple. Ningcheng put away the jade talisman and slowly walked towards the 5-colored star splitter square. Even without the jade talisman, with his current strength, he could still take away the 5-colored star splitter bow. The 5-colored star splitter square was a public place, and there were even some stalls on the edge. As long as one didn't touch the 5-colored star splitter bow, the restriction array here wouldn't be triggered. When Ningcheng arrived, there weren't many people in the 5-colored star splitter square. In the middle of the 5-colored star splitter square was a huge square platform made of white jade. Above this white jade square platform was a huge bow. The bowstring was pointed in the direction of darkness heaven. Apparently, apart from symbolism, this bow was also used to deal with darkness heaven. The bow's color seemed to be gray, but it also looked like a 5-colored rainbow. The bow wasn't connected to the white jade square platform. Instead, it hovered directly above the white jade square platform. A condensed killing power surrounded the bow. If one didn't use their spiritual consciousness to scan it, they would only feel a powerful pressure. If one used their spiritual consciousness to scan it, the killing power would directly strangle their spiritual consciousness. Ningcheng observed for a long time under the white jade square platform. He could see that the 5-colored star splitter bow was protected by a large defensive array. Outside this defensive array, there was a killing array, and outside the killing array was a trapping array. The 3 grand arrays locked the 5-colored star splitter bow, which made Ningcheng feel secretly shocked. If he hadn't reached the 3rd step world creation realm, he wouldn't have been able to take away the 5-colored star splitter bow even if he came here. Just as Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness slowly penetrated the periphery of the 5-colored star splitter bow, the killing power around the 5-colored star splitter bow suddenly surged. The endless killing intent rolled towards the 5-colored star splitter bow like a huge wave. At this moment, Ningcheng found himself in the middle of this endless killing power. The killing intent grew thicker and thicker. In the end, it almost tore Ningcheng to shreds and turned into a wave of killing intent. Ningcheng felt shocked. He had come here without doing anything. Moreover, his spiritual consciousness had just touched the periphery of the 5-colored star splitter bow's killing power. Yet, the 5-colored star splitter bow had already been activated? This made Ningcheng feel a trace of fear. Was the 5-colored star splitter bow really this powerful? The 5-colored star splitter bow has been activated. Hurry up and retreat. The few people on the public square quickly retreated with horror after sensing the activation of the 5-colored star splitter bow. Everyone here knew that once the 5-colored star splitter bow's killing power fully rolled up, any living creature left on the public square would turn into killing intent. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness did not hesitate to forcibly split open the surrounding killing intent, and rushed into the 5-colored star splitter bow's killing power space. When he saw that the 5-colored star splitter bow had indeed been drawn, he saw a condensed killing intent converging on the 5-colored star splitter bow. At the same time, a faintly discernible long arrow was knocked on the 5-colored star splitter bow. Ningcheng understood that he wasn't the one who activated the 5-colored star splitter bow. The 5-colored star splitter arrow on the 5-colored star splitter bow wasn't aimed at him, but towards the north. Ningcheng no longer hesitated and stepped out into the void. He wanted to take away the 5-colored star splitter bow at this moment. Ningcheng had just lifted his foot when a violent killing intent swept over. It felt as if it wanted to lock Ningcheng under the white jade square platform. Ningcheng ignored this killing intent. Not to mention that the 5-colored star splitter bow had locked onto the opponent at this moment. Even if it didn't lock onto anyone, it couldn't do anything to him. With a slight movement of his toes, the billowing killing intent rushing towards Ningcheng immediately split apart. Almost at the same time, the trap and kill array activated, and a light Dao charm formed a cage-like trap array that locked onto Ningcheng. Chapter 1433. Ningcheng already knew that this would happen. Almost at the same time as he activated the killing array, he threw out several array flags and shot out the good fortune divine spear. An unobstructed passage appeared in front of Ningcheng, and Ningcheng easily stood at the top of the white jade square platform. At this time, the killing array had only just activated. But at this time, Ningcheng no longer had anything to do with the killing array. Whoosh! A long arrow that almost tore through the void shot out from the five-colored star splitter bow, and a violent killing power followed the arrow into the void. Ningcheng didn't care whether this arrow killed his opponent or not. The moment the arrow shot out, he raised his hand and grabbed the five-colored star splitter bow. A violent aura permeated over, and Ningcheng sneered. Sure enough, as he had guessed, there was a spiritual sense attached to the five-colored star splitter bow. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness shook slightly. He didn't need to attack at all, and the spiritual sense attached to the five-colored star splitter bow dissipated. Not waiting for the violent aura from the five-colored star splitter bow to interfere with him, Ningcheng raised his hand and shot out dozens of restrictions to wrap around the five-colored star splitter bow. Then, Ningcheng threw the five-colored star splitter bow into his own world. In his world, no matter how powerful the five-colored star splitter bow was, it had to settle down obediently. After Ningcheng put away the five-colored star splitter bow, the killing power on the public square dissipated in an instant. Even the killing array also became ordinary after Ningcheng blasted open the array entrance. Excuse me, is this the public square Dao Lord Ning who entered the light treasury first? A slightly rough voice arrived, and a blue-haired man landed on the five-colored star splitter square, which had gradually returned to its normal state. Behind the blue-haired man was a scholarly man with a white face and no beard. Ningcheng noticed that both of them were powerhouses in the convergence realm. Moreover, he had seen these two in the Light Treasury's main hall before. Presumably, they were two of the 10 Dao Lords of the Radiant Sacred Domain. Ningcheng didn't put away the Good Fortune Divine Spear. Instead, he carried it directly on his back and stood on the white jade square platform in the center of the public square. Yes, I'm Ningcheng. Did you two come here to fight me? If you want to fight, then I'll accompany you. If not, then I'm leaving. Dao Lord Ning, you must be joking. Although Lei Sha and I have been wrongly listed as one of the 10 Dao Lords of the Holy Region, our strength is far inferior to yours. How would we dare to fight you? This time, it was the fair-skinned Confucian who spoke. After Yinsen finished speaking, fearing that Ningcheng would make a move, she immediately said, Dao Lord Ning, this five-colored star splitter bow is the symbol of my bright light tomorrow. Dao Lord Ning, please don't take this bow. Even if Yinsen knew that Ningcheng would definitely take this bow away, he and Lei Sha, as the Dao Lords guarding the Radiant Sacred Region, would not dare to say a word. Ningcheng replied with a calm voice. Is the five-colored star splitter bow something that belongs to you, Radiant Tomorrow? How come I didn't know? Since this bow belongs to you, Luminous Sky, why don't you see the arrows? As far as I know, this bow should be from another universe. That universe is called the Five Elements Universe. If Yinsen had said that the Light and Darkness Treasure Tree was the symbol of this place, he wouldn't have been able to refute. If one said that the five-colored star splitter bow belonged to the bright light tomorrow, then Ningcheng could only spit and stop bragging. Yinsen had no choice but to say, Dao Lord Ning is right. This bow does indeed come from the Five Elements Universe, but it ended up in the Holy Region. If Dao Lord Ning is from the Five Elements Universe, then I naturally have nothing to say. But if Dao Lord Ning isn't from the Five Elements Universe, and you insist on taking this bow, I have nothing to say since I'm not as strong as Dao Lord Ning. Yinsen vaguely guessed that Ningcheng was from the Five Elements Universe. Anyway, he couldn't take the bow back, so these words were to give himself a way out. If Ningcheng wasn't from the Five Elements Universe, then it meant that he couldn't take the bow back, so he could take it away. If he took the five-colored star splitter bow, then he would have a Dao mark in his heart in the future. Ningcheng laughed. Even if he wasn't from the Five Elements Universe, He had condensed his own laws and evolved a world to reach the third step. He wouldn't have a Tao mark in this matter. However, he still stood at the top of the white jade square platform and looked at Einstein before saying, "Then I'll tell you that you're right. I'm from the Five Elements universe. But I also want to tell you that I came to take the five-colored star splitter bow, because I like this bow. It has nothing to do with whether I'm from the Five Elements universe or not." Einstein was tongue-tied. He had previously said that if Ning Cheng came from the Five Elements universe, then it was only right for him to take the bow. But it turned out that Ning Cheng really came from the Five Elements universe. What surprised him even more was that Ning Cheng directly said that he liked the bow, but he didn't give him a way out. What could he do about it? Leave the five-colored star splitter bow. A gray figure stepped down from the void and landed over the five-colored star splitter square. It was another Convergence Realm expert. When Ning Cheng saw this person, he knew that the other party's strength wasn't any weaker than Yi-Wen Mao. However, his Dao charm aura was slightly disordered. Ning Cheng could tell at a glance that it was because of the arrow shot by the five-colored star splitter bow. Although half of the arrow's power had been reduced due to his interference, it still caused this Convergence Realm expert to suffer a loss. "Agnes, how can you come here?" Lei Sha, who stood next to Einstein, saw the gray-robed man. His expression changed drastically, and deep fear appeared in his eyes. At the same time, he brought out his weapon and stared at the gray-robed man in front of him. Einstein also brought out her weapon and stood next to Lei Sha. "Agnes, you're the Tao monarch of Darkness Heaven. You openly tore through my Radiant Sacred Domain's defensive array and came in. Do you want to provoke another war between my Radiant Sacred Domain and Darkness Heaven?" The gray-robed man named Agnes laughed. "Do you think that we're not fighting again? You've already crossed the Sacred Domain River. What do you want to provoke another war?" After Agnes finished speaking, he didn't care about Einstein and Lei Sha at all. His gaze still fell on Ning Cheng, and his tone turned sharp. "I'll give you 3 breaths. If you don't." Agnes's words stopped, and his gaze fell on the good fortune divine spear behind Ning Cheng. A moment later, a hint of eagerness appeared in his eyes, and this eagerness grew more and more fanatical. Seeing Agnes's gaze, Lei Sha and Einstein looked at each other silently. They didn't even try to suppress Agnes with their imposing auras. Only when the Tao monarch of Darkness Heaven came to this place did they realize what was going on. At this moment, they couldn't wait for Ning Cheng and Agnes to fight. Ning Cheng finally understood that this fellow was the Tao monarch of Darkness Heaven. "If I came here, I would have opened the array door to come in. But you directly tore through the defensive array. You don't even have the slightest bit of politeness. Besides, when you came in, I helped you block half of the five-colored star splitter bow's power. Not only do you not know how to thank me, but you also want me to leave the star splitter bow behind. How can you be so mean?" Ning Cheng's tone contained a hint of sarcasm. Agnes didn't care about Ning Cheng's tone at all. He took another step forward and landed a few feet in front of Ning Cheng. He then spoke word by word. "Leave behind the spear and the five-colored star splitter bow on your back, and I will let you leave this place." This time, Ning Cheng did not bother to pay attention to Agnes. The good fortune divine spear appeared in his hand, and he spoke to Lei Sha and Einstein, who were standing on both sides of him. "For the sake of the few friends I made in Radiant Heaven, I will help you kill this bug today." As he spoke, Ning Cheng took a step forward, and the spear in his hand shot out layers of spear patterns that enveloped Agnes. When Agnes saw that Ning Cheng, an ant who had just created a world, dared to attack him, he flew into a rage. However, this anger didn't last for more than half a breath before it turned into horror. Ning Cheng's spear patterns didn't have any majestic Dao charm fluctuations, but they easily created one spatial dislocation after another. At this moment, Agnes felt the void around him start to distort and collapse. An aura that didn't belong to this world locked onto him, making it impossible for him to go anywhere other than the spatial dislocations Ning Cheng had created. At this moment, how could Agnes care about anything else? He brought out a giant yellow umbrella, and behind it was a spatial domain formed by black scales. Agnes only had one thought in his mind, and that was to escape immediately after blocking Ning Cheng's attack. He would run as far as he could. Previously, he had called Ningqing an ant, but now compared to Ningcheng, he wasn't even an ant. Ningcheng was too strong, so strong that he couldn't even muster the will to resist. The Tao charm of the dark laws poured into the yellow umbrella and the black scales like a broken dam. In an instant, the umbrella and the black scales transformed into an endless spatial world. Behind these spatial worlds, Agnes kept retreating. Ka 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 ka. A series of cracking sounds could be heard. The giant yellow umbrella and the black scales didn't last long. No matter how many spatial worlds they created, they were all torn apart by the layers of collapsing space like paper. It seemed that before Ningcheng's layers of spatial dislocations collapsed, all defensive artifacts were illusory and useless. Yinsen and Lei Sha, who were watching from the square, were completely stunned. They knew how powerful Agnes was. Even if Yi Wenmao fought Agnes, he wouldn't have a 100% upper hand. Apart from Nong Shimu, there wasn't anyone in the radiant sacred realm who could suppress Agnes. Now that Ningcheng's spear had forced Agnes into such a state, just how strong was Ningcheng? Puff! Although Agnes' defense was strong, it was still torn apart by Ningcheng's traceless collapse. A mist of blood sprayed out, and Agnes' body was torn apart by the traceless collapse. Fortune Realm Powerhouse. Agnes screamed as his body completely shattered. Then, an essence spirit escaped, but before it could escape, it was caught by Ningcheng's Tao Charm giant hand. Do you still want my spear? Ningcheng looked at Agnes's essence spirit in his Tao Charm giant hand and said sarcastically. Junior doesn't know Senior is a Fortune Realm powerhouse. No matter how strong his will was, after countless years of hard work, even his essence spirit couldn't be preserved. The fate of having his soul destroyed still terrified Agnes, and he couldn't accept it. He didn't beg for mercy, and his tone was no different from begging for mercy. Fortune Realm powerhouse. Ningcheng sighed, and his Tao charm tightened, crushing Agnes into nothingness. Not to mention Fortune Realm, he had just stepped into the realm of Fortune Realm. Chapter 1434. Many thanks for the help, Tao Lord Ning. Yinsen and Lei Sha suppressed the fear in their hearts and stepped forward to thank Ningcheng. They knew that Ningcheng was powerful, but they never thought that Ningcheng would be powerful to such an extent. Even a powerhouse like Agnes couldn't put up much resistance in front of Ningcheng. If the Radiant Holy Realm wanted to deal with Ningcheng, it would be a joke. Fortunately, they hadn't helped Ju Jin and Yushi back then. Otherwise, today would have been their death anniversary. Ningcheng landed on the public square and asked, why are there only 2 of the 10 Tao Lords of the Radiant Sacred Region left? And where did Ju Jin go? Yinsen replied respectfully. The light origin bead suddenly appeared in the dark heaven. Not only that, but the light scroll also appeared in the dark heaven. Ningcheng asked in doubt, isn't the radiant light scroll in the radiant treasury? Even if it's taken out, it should be in the hands of radiant brightness, right? Yinsen said carefully. I wonder if you remember Master Seed? Ningcheng nodded. He naturally remembered the seed mirror. If he hadn't suddenly joined the fight for the radiant storehouse, the first person to enter the radiant storehouse would have been Grandmaster Seed. Seeing Ningcheng nod, Yinsen continued. Grandmaster Jingzhong took away the radiant scroll. Later, when Sacred Master wanted to ask Grandmaster Jingzhong for the Radiant Scroll, Grandmaster Jingzhong disappeared. The Radiant Scroll and the Radiant Origin Orb appeared in the sky of darkness at the same time. Since they belong to the Radiant Heavens, they can't possibly fall into the hands of the sky of darkness. Before Yinsen could finish, Ningcheng understood. So Ju Jin took the other Tao monarchs to the sky of darkness to snatch the origin bead of light and the light scroll? Yinsen nodded. Yes. If we can take back the Radiant Scroll, all Tao Lords of the Sacred Region will be able to meditate on it. As for the light origin bead, it will also be engraved on this plaza. Yinsen paused for a moment, then continued, logically speaking, as one of the most elite Tao Lords of the Dark Sky, Agnes should be engaged in battle with the Tao Lords of the Sacred Domain. I wonder why he's appeared here. I understand. Goodbye. After Ningcheng finished this sentence, he took a step into the void and disappeared from the 5-colored Shattered Star public square. Ningcheng understood Yinsen's thoughts. She wanted him to investigate why Agnes appeared in the radiant holy realm. Ningcheng did not have the slightest interest in this. What did Agnes' appearance have to do with him? It was definitely not a coincidence that the Radiance origin bead and the Radiance scroll had appeared at the same time. It must have been done by someone, but it had nothing to do with Ningcheng. If he had not reached the third step, he would have been very concerned about the light origin bead. However, after he had condensed the laws and evolved his world, he had not even coveted the light and darkness treasure tree, let alone the light origin bead. Ningcheng wanted to leave this side of the universe and return to the five-element universe. Back then he had promised Wuxia something, but because he couldn't return, he couldn't help him. Now that so many years had passed, the Great Change Realm had been ravaged by the demonic creatures. Even if there was a time difference between the two worlds, more than 100 years had passed in the Great Change Realm. As long as the Great Change Realm still existed, he could destroy those devils. So powerful. Could it be that he has really surpassed the boundary between worlds? How is this possible? Until Ningcheng disappeared, Leisha spoke out in shock. Yin-Sin heaved a sigh of relief and said slowly, "It is rumored that those who have surpassed the integration realm would not be able to survive in this universe. Dao Lord Ning must still be in the creation realm. His realm should be different from ours. I'm afraid that he has created a supreme realm." Leisha nodded, and was about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. "The battle has reached the Sacred Region River. Close the Light Sacred Region's defensive array. Let's go." Yin-Sin had apparently received the same message. At this time, staying here to protect the Light Sacred Region was completely secondary. If the two sides fought to the Sacred Region River, it meant that the Light Sacred Region would be defeated. Ningcheng stood on the edge of the Sacred Region River. Back then, he had almost been swept away by the huge waves of the Sacred Region River, because he had touched the water here. Later, he had destroyed Sung Leifu's body here. After 10,000 years, Ningcheng came here again. Originally, Ningcheng wanted to touch the water of the Sacred Region River. In addition, he also wanted to enter the Sacred Region River to find out if the Sacred Region River was the light and darkness universe's cosmic side. Standing by the Sacred Region River, Ningcheng saw countless people fighting above the Sacred Region River. As a Dao Lord of the Taisu Dao Court, Ningcheng had led tens of millions of Dao Court army into battle. He had seen such a shocking scene before. Compared to the Dao Court army of the Taisu Dao Court, this battle was even more cruel and merciless. The densely packed cultivators were blasted into the Sacred Domain River and disappeared without a trace. Not even a drop of water splashed on the surface. What shocked Ningcheng even more was that the countless cultivators fighting above the Sacred Region River were not sitting on the radiant treasure chariots. Most of them stood in the void, as if the Sacred Region River had become an ordinary river at this time. However, Ningcheng knew that the Sacred Region River was definitely different from an ordinary river. Otherwise, the cultivators falling into it would not have even created a single wave. Ningcheng clenched his long spear and took a step forward. He easily stood above the Sacred Region River. There was no violent sweeping force under the Sacred Region River that swept him away. At this moment, the Sacred Region River looked like an ordinary place. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness fell into the Sacred Region River, but it still could not penetrate deeper. Even with so many people fighting above the Sacred Region River, it did not seem to affect the mood of the Sacred Region River. The Sacred Region River did not go berserk at all. Just as Ningcheng stood above the Sacred Region River, a jet-black light blasted down. The jet-black light surrounded the Law of Darkness aura that controlled heaven and earth. This should be the attack of a world creator powerhouse. Ningcheng was too lazy to move. He swung the creation divine spear in his hand, and a spear light directly swallowed the Law of Darkness aura. After swallowing the aura, the spear light did not stop. It continued to cut through space and tore a world creator powerhouse into pieces. The powerful Dao Charm aura and a world creator powerhouse tore apart instantly, shocking all the powerhouses. At the same time, tens of thousands of spiritual consciousnesses swept towards Ningcheng. However, when these spiritual consciousnesses were a few feet away from Ningcheng, they were blocked by the Dao Charm laws around Ningcheng. "It's you." At this moment, At least a dozen people recognized Ning Cheng. Yushi almost immediately abandoned his opponent and landed in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng did not wait for Yushi to speak at all, and the spear pattern wrapped around Yushi. Within the spear pattern space, Ning Cheng's spear pattern tore through Yushi's protective domain like a rag. Compared to Ongxi, Yushi was far inferior. By the time the rest of the people rushed over, Ning Cheng had already turned Yushi into a bloody mist. After all this happened, Yushi only had time to show a look of shock. In his opinion, as long as he stalled Ning Cheng for a few breaths, Zhu Jin and the others would arrive and join forces to kill Ning Cheng. Unfortunately, not to mention entangling Ning Cheng, he couldn't even reach Ning Cheng's side before Ning Cheng killed him. As the Dao laws collapsed, Ning Cheng's creation divine spear once again swept out, wanting to tear apart Yushi's Dao laws. However, these scattered Dao laws were like weights that fell directly into the sacred region river. They did not even cause a ripple before disappearing without a trace. Ning Cheng felt shocked, and his spiritual consciousness started to observe even more carefully. In just a few breaths, Ning Cheng saw everything clearly. Apart from the cultivators who fell into the sacred region river, when people with low cultivation died, their blood qi, essence spirit, and even their souls would quickly seep into the sacred region river. When people with high cultivation died, their Dao laws wouldn't scatter into the world, but would be swept away by the sacred region river. There was something wrong with the sacred region river. This was the third time Ning Cheng had this feeling. The first time was when he and Tang Hua crossed the sacred region river. The second time was when he came to the sacred region river alone, and wanted to take away a portion of the sacred region river's water. This was the third time. This time, his feeling was even more intense. Ning Cheng. Tang Shi was the first to rush over, followed by Zhu Jin and another expert from the fusing realm. Several convergence realm experts, who fought with Zhu Jin and the others, also rushed over. Did you just kill Yushi? After Tang Shi confirmed that it was Ning Cheng, he spoke up in disbelief. He could tell that Ning Cheng's strength had improved by a level compared to the last time, from the second step to the third step. Zhu Jin's expression kept changing. Yin Sin and Lei Sha were about to arrive, but they hadn't reported what Ning Cheng had done in the Sacred Lord region. Therefore, they hadn't received any news about Ning Cheng taking away the five-colored star splitter bow. Ning Cheng glanced at Tang Shi and spoke. I am only sparing you for the sake of Tang Hua, an ignorant man. Otherwise, I would have razed your Tang clan's cave to the ground. If you dare to act arrogantly again today, you will end up like Yushi. Zhu Jin's expression changed slightly. He only knew that someone had gone to the Sacred Lord region and destroyed his and Yushi's cave. It was just that he couldn't leave for a while. Only now did he realize that Ning Cheng was the one who destroyed his cave. Tang Shi's expression turned gloomy, and he didn't dare to make a move. His strength should be similar to Yushi's. Since Ning Cheng could kill Yushi in such a short time, it wouldn't take long for Ning Cheng to kill him. This Dao friend, I'm Yates from Darkness Sky. Dao friend, don't worry. If the people from the Radiant's sacred region dare to beseech you, my Darkness Sky will definitely stand on your side. A black-robed Dao Lord immediately stepped forward and spoke to Ning Cheng after hearing his words. In his opinion, helping Ning Cheng was the same as helping Darkness Sky. I just killed someone named Agnes. Was he a Dao Lord from your Darkness Sky? Ning Cheng didn't buy it at all. A Dao Lord from Darkness Sky actually wanted to use him. You killed Dao Lord Agnes? Yates's expression changed. Immediately, the God-punishing hook in his hand transformed into hundreds of Dao laws of darkness and swept towards Ning Cheng. At the same time, the other two people beside Yates also brought out their weapons. Ning Cheng didn't move at all. Instead, he rolled up his long spear. The spear patterns tore through space, and Yates's hundreds of Dao laws of darkness were devoured by the layers of torn space created by Ning Cheng's spear patterns. Not even a single ripple could be seen. A dislocated void aura spread out, and Yates and the two Dao lords beside him revealed looks of horror. Chapter 1435. They couldn't help but feel fear. An expert who could create a spatial rift above the sacred domain river was much stronger than them. Just as the thought of escaping rose in their minds, Ning Cheng's domain power crushed down once again. Bang! Bang! Two bloody mists exploded. Apart from the Tao Lord who managed to escape, Yates and the other Tao Lord were torn to shreds by Ning Cheng's traceless collapse. Ning Cheng noticed that the moment Yates and the other Tao Lord died, the scattered Tao laws sank directly into the sacred region river and disappeared without a trace. Ning Cheng retracted his spiritual sense. He would slowly study the sacred domain river later. He looked at the Tao Lord who escaped. Although he didn't chase after him, he knew that this fellow was very scheming. The moment he mentioned Agnes, Yates immediately attacked him. The two people behind Yates also took out their magic treasures and rushed over. In reality, only one of them rushed over. The other pretended to rush over, but what he was really doing was quickly retreating. Clearly, the one who retreated had made the judgment in the shortest time possible and knew that he would die if he rushed forward. That was why he pretended to rush forward while actually retreating. This kind of judgment wasn't difficult to make. Since Ning Cheng could kill Agnes without suffering any injuries, his strength must be above theirs. What's more, was a Tao Lord that easy to kill? Even if they couldn't beat him, they could still escape. Since Agnes didn't escape, it meant that Ning Cheng's strength was not only above theirs, but far beyond theirs. Agnes didn't even have a chance to escape. Zhu Jin, I think we should settle the score. Ning Cheng turned his head and looked at Zhu Jin, who wasn't far from him. Zhu Jin's expression was extremely ugly. At this moment, even if he was given 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to attack Ning Cheng. He naturally knew that Yates was slightly weaker than him, but Yates couldn't even last a single round in front of Ning Cheng before dying. If he fought Ning Cheng, he wouldn't end up much better than Yates. Moreover, Ning Cheng's spirit technique not only killed Yates, but also another Tao Lord from the darkness sky. Tao Lord Ning, Zhu Jin, was in the wrong for what happened in the Radiant Hall previously. I apologize to you. Now that the dark sky has launched a large-scale attack on my luminous mystic realm, I hope that Tao Lord Ning will forgive us on account that we are all from luminous mystic realm. Even though Zhu Jin was a holy lord, he had no choice but to lower his head at this moment. Tang Shi's face was even paler, and his heart was filled with endless regret. Originally, Ning Cheng could have become a distinguished guest of his Tang clan, but now he had turned into an enemy of his Tang clan. Ning Cheng showed a smile and spoke with a hint of disdain. Zhu Jin, you're wrong again. I'm not radiant tomorrow. Whether radiance tomorrow is destroyed or not, it has nothing to do with me. Big brother Ning, please show some mercy. A crisp voice arrived. Ning Cheng did not even need to use his spiritual consciousness to see, as he knew that Tang Hua had arrived. Tang Shi must have sent a message for Tang Hua to come here. Ning Cheng did not guess wrong. Tang Hua was indeed called over by Tang Shi. It was not that Tang Shi wanted Tang Hua to save Zhu Jin, but rather that Tang Shi was afraid that Ning Cheng would kill him after killing Zhu Jin. Long time no see. Ning Cheng nodded to Tang Hua. No matter what reason Tang Hua had for inviting him, he still felt grateful. Without Tang Hua, he could not have obtained the primal chaos gray stone. Nor could he have comprehended for 5,000 years and finally condensed his own world. Moreover, when Tang Shi dealt with him, Tang Hua also wanted to speak. However, she was not qualified to speak. Tang Hua bowed to Ning Cheng. Congratulations to Big Brother Ning for making great progress in your cultivation. Senior Zhu is the sacred lord of my radiant tomorrow. If something happened to him, it would be a huge blow to my radiant tomorrow. I hope that Big Brother Ning will show some mercy. After Zhu Jin saw Ning Cheng's strength, he understood that Ning Cheng could kill him with ease. After Tang Hua pleaded, he quickly cupped his fists and spoke. Tao Lord Ning, I was blinded by the treasures in the Radiance treasury and wanted to attack Tao Lord Ning. To make up for my mistake, I just obtained the Radiance scroll. I will give this Radiance scroll to Brother Ning as an apology. After saying that, without waiting for Ning Cheng to answer, Zhu Jin raised his hand and took out an ancient scroll. Ning Cheng waved his hand, and the Radiant scroll appeared in his hand. He had seen the Radiant scroll in the Radiance treasury, so he knew that Zhu Jin did not lie to him. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the Radiant scroll, and with a wave of his hand, the Radiant scroll disappeared without a trace. This Zhu Jin truly was a despicable person. He first stated that he loved treasures. The implication was that in that situation, if someone else was in his shoes, they would have made the same choice. Then, taking advantage of Tang Hua's plea, he took out the Radiance Scroll to save his life. In fact, Ning Cheng also understood the meaning behind Tang Hua's words. At least at this time, Zhu Jin still had some use. Since he killed Zhu Jin, then Radiant tomorrow would definitely lose. What about the Radiance Origin Bead? Ning Cheng did not stop here. This time, without waiting for Zhu Jin to speak, a Dao Lord next to him took the initiative to speak up. We did not see the Radiance Origin Bead. We only came here because we saw the Radiance Scroll. We even suspect that someone deliberately said that the Radiance Origin Bead was in the dark sky, so that we could fight for it. At this moment, Ning Cheng saw the people in the melee suddenly separate. The people from the dark sky retreated like a receding tide. At the same time, Zhu Jin sent out several messages, and the people from Radiant Tomorrow also started to retreat. The Sacred Domain River gradually opened up, and the sky above the Sacred Domain River, where countless people had fallen, no longer had the faint smell of blood after the two sides retreated. The people from the dark sky clearly knew that Ning Cheng had easily killed Yates and the other Dao Lord. Since such a powerhouse from Radiant Tomorrow came, they naturally did not dare to continue. Even if there was a conspiracy, they still had to retreat. In the face of absolute strength, conspiracies were just a joke. We also have to quickly retreat from the Sacred Domain River. Once the two sides stop fighting, the sky above the Sacred Domain River will soon return to its original state. Without the Radiance Treasure Chariot, we would not be able to survive in the sky above the Sacred Domain River. The Dao Lord who spoke before spoke up again. Ning Cheng's heart moved. Only when the two sides fought would the sky calm down. Once the battle ended, the sky above the Sacred Domain River would turn problematic. This Sacred Domain River was indeed strange. Tang Hua, many thanks for bringing me into the Radiance Treasury. You have a Radiance Scroll in your ring, which I just put in. This Radiance Scroll has no use for me, so I'll give it to you. Ning Cheng secretly sent the Radiance Scroll into Tang Hua's ring, and sent a sound transmission to her. Tang Hua froze for a moment before sobering up. She took out a large jade box and handed it to Ning Cheng. Big brother Ning, I'll give this to you. I don't have much use for it. Ning Cheng took a look at the jade box and immediately knew what was inside. It was a piece of heaven-opening mother iron. This thing was too precious. Although he gave the Radiant Scroll to Tang Hua, he did not intend for Tang Hua to give him anything. Tang Hua did not wait for Ning Cheng to speak and spoke up again. Big brother Ning did not care about the matter of the Radiant Palace. Tang Hua is very grateful. This thing is just a small token of my appreciation. In fact, it's not a good thing. Since Tang Hua had already spoken to this point, Ning Cheng also did not speak anymore. He raised his hand and took the heaven-opening mother iron before saying to Tang Hua, "Thank you. The next time I come, I'll give you a weapon." Tang Hua truly couldn't refine the heaven-opening mother iron. In fact, there were only a few people in Radiant Heaven who could refine the heaven-opening mother iron. Besides, Tang Hua might not dare to let others refine it. Now that she said that she wanted to thank Ning Cheng for not caring about the matter of the Radiant Palace, it meant that Zhu Jin owed her a favor. What harm was there in giving this favor to Tang Hua? After he refined the heaven-opening mother iron into a weapon, he would give it to Tang Hua the next time. Zhu Jin, this time, I'll give face to Tang Hua and not care about what happened last time. You can take Radiant Heaven's people back. Ning Cheng spoke with a stern tone. Many thanks, Dao Lord Ning. Zhu Jin didn't want to speak another word with Ning Cheng. Together with the other Dao Lords, he took Radiant Heaven's people and withdrew from the Sacred Domain River as fast as possible. Being together with a powerhouse like Ning Cheng made him feel uncomfortable. By the time Ning Cheng landed on the edge of the Sacred Domain River, the Sacred Domain River had already disappeared. Zhu Jin retreated quickly. As soon as he reached the edge of the Sacred Domain River, he quickly left with Radiant Heaven's people. The sky above the Sacred Domain River regained its emptiness and quietness. The Sacred Domain River still looked like a mirror, without even the slightest ripple. Who knew how many powerhouses fell into the Sacred Domain River and disappeared without a trace in the battle just now? whether the Sacred Domain River was the boundary of the light and dark universe or not. The Sacred Domain River wasn't a simple place. Ningcheng came here this time to enter the Sacred Domain River, but he wasn't in a hurry. He had already waited for 10,000 years, so why would he care about waiting for a few more days? Not far from the Sacred Domain River, Ningcheng entered the mysterious yellow bead and took out the 5-colored star splitter bow. Before entering the Sacred Domain River, he had to refine the 5-colored star splitter bow. In terms of strength, Ningcheng was now several times stronger than when he was at the peak of Tao integration. What's more, the third step realm creation was a complete qualitative change compared to the second step. Even so, Ningcheng couldn't guarantee that he would be safe after entering the Sacred Domain River. The 5-colored star splitter was a connate weapon. Now that the bow and arrow had merged into one, as long as he refined it, even Xingshi might not be able to avoid this arrow. A few days later, Ningcheng came out of the mysterious yellow bead. Initially, there was only a faint shadow of an arrow on his wrist. But now, next to the arrow shadow, there was an additional shadow of a longbow. In just a few days, Ningcheng refined the 5-colored star splitter bow. Although he didn't test the power of the 5-colored star splitter bow, he felt sure that this arrow could easily kill a realm-merging powerhouse like Yuan Mao. The Sacred Domain River remained as calm as a mirror, without any fluctuations. Ningcheng carried the long spear on his back and slowly walked to the edge of the Sacred Domain River. His spiritual consciousness began to slowly penetrate the Sacred Domain River. Just like before, Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness didn't affect the surface of the Sacred Domain River at all. But when his spiritual consciousness was about to penetrate deeper into the Sacred Domain River, an extremely powerful force blocked it. This time, Ningcheng was prepared. Without any compromises, his spiritual consciousness burst out and pierced into the bottom of the Sacred Domain River without any scruples. Boom boom boom. As Ningcheng expected, the calm surface of the Sacred Domain River started to turn violent. Huge waves, ranging from a few dozen feet to a few hundred feet, rolled up out of thin air, and one wave after another blasted towards Ningcheng, who was standing by the Sacred Domain River. Chapter 1436. A few dozen miles away from the edge of the Sacred Domain River, a woman with an average appearance and a hot body screamed when she saw the raging waves of the Sacred Domain River. At the same time, she stopped in her tracks. When she saw the raging waves rolling towards Ningcheng standing by the river, she exclaimed, "That's Ningcheng. He actually angered the Sacred Domain River." At the same time, Ningcheng also saw Liz flying over. He didn't take it to heart. After all, he and Liz weren't familiar with each other. Ningcheng only glanced at Liz before turning his gaze to the raging waves. In the face of the raging waves, Ningcheng not only didn't bring out the good fortune divine spear to attack, he didn't even move. 2 law domains rose around him at the same time. One was a protective domain created from the original law domain of heaven and earth, and the other was a protective domain created from his own world formation laws. Without entering the Sacred Domain River, no matter how much he guessed, he wouldn't know the situation of the Sacred Domain River. Without knowing the situation of the Sacred Domain River, he would never be able to leave the light and dark universe through the Sacred Domain River. He wanted to take this opportunity to enter the Sacred Domain River and have a look. Rather than going in by himself, it was better to be swept into the raging waves. The waves of the Sacred Domain River swept over, and Ningcheng, who stood by the Sacred Domain River, became like a speck of dust. The waves of the Sacred Domain River swept him away and disappeared without a trace. After sweeping Ningcheng away, the raging waves of the Sacred Domain River quickly receded and disappeared in a blink of an eye. The entire Sacred Domain River returned to its original calm, and the river once again became a mirror-like surface without any ripples. It's too late. He actually provoked the Sacred Domain River and got swept away by it. Liz murmured, "Are you sure it's him?" Another woman next to Liz asked. Compared to Liz's ordinary appearance, this woman had a peerless appearance. She had willow-like eyebrows and snow-white skin, and her eyes looked even more spirited. If Ningcheng had to compare, he would definitely say that the other party didn't lose out to Xingshi in terms of appearance, except for her aura and strength. Liz seemed to remember that she didn't come alone and quickly turned around and said, "Sister Ziyuan, I'm sure I didn't see it wrong. That's definitely Ningcheng. Unfortunately, I did not record the crystal image, otherwise if I showed it to elder sister Tang Hua, then elder sister Tang Hua would definitely be able to recognize that it was Ningcheng." The peerlessly beautiful woman calmly took out a crystal ball and said, "I recorded it just now." After saying that, she made a few hand seals and enlarged the image on the crystal ball. Liz saw it even more clearly this time. "Sister Ziyuan, that's right, it's him. I didn't expect him to offend the Saint River and cause such a thing." The beautiful woman whom Liz had addressed as Sister Ziyuan put away the crystal ball and frowned slightly. "Why do I feel that he didn't seem to be swept away by the waves of the sacred river? It seems like he deliberately entered the sacred river?" Liz laughed. "Sister Ziyuan, you've been cultivating in seclusion for too long. Would anyone be able to escape from the waves of the Saint Domain River? It was said that once those waves came, they would immediately bind the laws of the entire world. Anyone who faced the waves of the Sacred Domain River could only wait for death. Otherwise, who would be willing to be swept away by the Saint River?" Ziyuan nodded. "You're right. After all, not everyone has Senior Nong's strength." "Senior Nong was also swept away by the waves of the sacred river?" Liz asked in surprise. Ziyuan subconsciously replied, "I've heard of such a thing. Moreover, it was rumored that the reason why Senior Nong was seriously injured was not because of his battle with Dark Sky, but because he stirred the waters of the sacred river." At this point, Ziyuan seemed to have thought of something and changed her words. "After all, these are just rumors. Let's go to the sacred river to take a look." But, hearing that Ziyuan wanted to go to the sacred river, Liz recalled the roar of the sacred river just now and hesitated. Ziyuan spoke up calmly, "As long as we don't touch the sacred river, it won't riot. We're just watching from the side. There's nothing wrong." All right. Liz knew that Ziyuan was right. As long as the sacred river didn't take the initiative to provoke it, stir the waters, or use spiritual consciousness to spy on it, it wouldn't riot under normal circumstances. The two of them stood by the sacred river. The sacred river was so dry that not even a drop of water splashed onto the ground. It was as if the raging waves that rolled up to the shore didn't originate from this place. Ziyuan lowered her head and looked around. After confirming that she couldn't find a drop of water, she sighed. Sure enough, waves of 30,000 li don't get wet. Elder sister Ziyuan, there are 2 more sentences. People disappear without a trace, like a flat mirror. Liz added. Ziyuan shook her head and didn't speak again. As long as the waves of the sacred river rolled up, any traces of people under the waves would disappear without a trace. After the sacred river went berserk, it would turn into a flat mirror with nothing in it. That was exactly what they saw in front of them. The waves of the sacred river surged up, and after sweeping Ningcheng away, it once again turned into a calm mirror-like sacred river. The raging waves rolled up and caught Ningcheng like an ant before sweeping him to the bottom of the sacred river. Ningcheng immediately realized what was going on the moment the waves rolled over him. The waves of the sacred river were made up of Tao charm laws. The entire sacred river was like a supreme powerhouse, and every drop of water was a part of this powerhouse's Tao charm. No wonder it was so difficult for him to absorb the river water. If someone wanted to grab a trace of his Tao aura for no reason, he would definitely not allow that person to do so. The Tao charm laws of the sacred river were completely different from the laws of heaven and earth of the light and darkness universe. Obviously, this powerhouse was like him, a powerhouse who had fused his own laws to form a world. It was just that his world hadn't fully condensed yet, while the other party's world had already taken shape. This world was the sacred river. Ningcheng wasn't the only one who had condensed their own Tao laws and stepped into the third step world creation realm. Ningcheng sighed in his heart and became even more cautious. He accidentally broke into someone else's world, which wasn't a good thing for him. He really couldn't figure out why someone created their own world and placed it in the light and darkness universe. Was it to absorb the heaven and earth Tao laws of the fallen cultivators during the battle between the light and darkness heavens? Since he could use his own laws to condense the sacred river, Why would he use such an inferior method to improve his cultivation? The waves swept Ningqing deep into the bottom of the sacred river, and the violent Dao charm continuously eroded Ningqing's protective domain. Even if he fell into someone else's world, Ningqing would never let his protective domain get devoured by someone else. Even if the protective domain of the outside universe got devoured, he still had his own domain with its own laws. When Ningqing understood that the sacred river was the condensation of a powerhouse's Dao charm, Ningqing immediately wanted to rush out of the sacred river. In any case, staying in someone else's world would be dangerous for him. When another wave swept over, Ningqing managed to block the powerful Dao charm bombardment. But at the same time, Ningqing's mind moved. He suddenly thought that his thoughts might be wrong. If the sacred river was truly a world condensed by someone else, then after he fell into the sacred river, an even more powerful devouring force should have already swept over. In fact, although the devouring force in front of him was strong, it couldn't do anything to him. Not only that, but the sacred river's waves also contained a trace of water vapor, which contained the aura of the light and darkness universe's laws of heaven and earth. Could it be that the sacred river originally existed between the light and darkness universes? When a powerhouse came here, he could have condensed his own Dao charm laws to create a world. But instead, he took off his pants to fart and used his own Dao charm laws to refine the sacred river, forcibly turning the sacred river's heaven and earth laws into his own Dao sense, and turning the sacred river into his own world? Ningqing felt that it was ridiculous when he thought about it. Just like him, he could condense his own laws to create a world. Why would he use his own Dao charm laws to refine the sacred river to create a world? Not only was it a waste of time, but it also had far less potential than a world condensed by one's own laws. The only advantage was that as long as he had time, there was no possibility of failure. Thinking of this, Ningqing no longer had any thoughts of going out. If the sacred river really was a world that a latecomer wanted to refine and integrate with his own laws, he didn't need to worry about it. At least for now, the sacred river hadn't turned 100% into the other party's world. Ningqing felt a trace of water vapor just now. This trace of aura wasn't unique, but the aura of the light and darkness universe's water-attributed laws. Letting the waves of the sacred river sweep him away, Ningqing raised his hand and grabbed a fist of sacred river water. The moment Ningqing grabbed the fist of sacred river water, an even more violent tearing force swept towards him. Ningqing felt as if the space around him was constantly exploding and tearing apart. An angry roar came from the waves that wrapped around him, and all kinds of strange laws kept pulling at him. Ningqing, who was pulled by the laws in this violent space, remained calm. However, he secretly rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he had reached the third step before coming to the bottom of the sacred river. If he had still been in the Dao integration realm, he would have already been torn apart by the terrifying roar of laws at the bottom of the sacred river. Ningqing didn't make a move, but let the laws sweep him away. His spiritual consciousness fell on the fist of river water in his hand. When Ningqing completely disintegrated the fist of river water, he was even more convinced that his guess was correct. This river was formed by Dao runes, and there was a law that was different from any of the 5 elements universe or the light and darkness universe in it. Because this fist of river water hadn't completely transformed into the unique Dao charm law, it still had a trace of water vapor aura under the light and darkness universe's laws. Ningqing's spiritual consciousness blasted into the fist of river water, and his spiritual consciousness exploded and tore apart the law aura. After tearing apart the unique Dao charm law in this fist of river water, the fist of river water started to change. The purest light and darkness law aura lingered in it. Ningqing felt sure that if someone who cultivated a light and darkness cultivation method cultivated in this environment, they would definitely make rapid progress. Chapter 1437. After Ningqing shattered the Dao charm absorbed from the river, the raging waves around him calmed down in an instant. Bang! Ningqing's feet landed on the hard bottom of the sacred domain river, and everything around him turned dark. The sacred domain river's water seemed to have a spiritual nature, and surrounded Ningqing in the middle. In front of Ningqing was a mess of ancient corals, and Ningqing's gaze fell on one of the corals. After half an incense stick worth of time, Ningqing spoke up in a calm voice. Since you've captured me, then come out. Sure enough, just as Ningqing's voice fell, a figure suddenly rose from the corals. When this figure floated above the corals, he suddenly took a step forward and landed on the open space in front of Ningqing. The sacred domain river's water constantly washed back and forth around this person. It felt like the river was part of his body, and he could control it at will. However, Ningqing's heart calmed down. His guess wasn't wrong. The sacred domain river wasn't a boundary condensed by other people's laws, but a natural existence. Someone at the bottom of the sacred domain river wanted to use his own laws to merge with the sacred domain river and turn the sacred domain river into a private boundary. The person who wanted to merge with the sacred domain river and turn the sacred domain river into his own boundary stood in front of him at this moment. Ningqing didn't speak. Instead, his gaze swept over this person a few times. This person didn't look more than a meter tall, comparable to Xiao Wuxin. His body looked like waves of water ripples, and his Dao charm aura constantly merged with the surrounding sacred domain river. However, his strength was unexpectedly low. He was still at the middle stage of creation realm, and definitely not at the convergence realm. If Ningqing hadn't stepped into the third step, he wouldn't have understood what was going on. At this moment, Ningqing clearly understood that this person's Dao charm was constantly refining the sacred domain river. In other words, this person's own laws were constantly assimilating the sacred domain river's heaven and earth laws. You're very strong. The man with ripples all over his body looked at Ningqing for a long time before speaking slowly. His voice sounded like a bucket of water falling from a high place onto a cement floor, somewhat broken. Ningqing didn't answer. This ripple-patterned man's words were nonsense. If he wasn't strong enough, he would have already ended up like the sacred domain river, or the cultivators who fell into the sacred domain river, turning into this person's Dao charm aura. No matter how strong you are, I will still be able to shatter your Dao aura protection and turn you into a Dao law of my sacred region river, just like the ants that have fallen into it. The man with the ripples on his face sounded a little colder. Ningqing spoke with a calm voice. You're also very strong. If you were a little more powerful, you could even blow through the boundaries of the light and dark universes. The bulls in the light and dark universe will be extinct because you have blown them to death. I'll stand here without moving and let you scratch me. Let's see if a dwarf like you can do anything to me. The ripple-patterned man snorted and suddenly took a step forward. His entire body turned into a sharp Taoist aura. The Dao aura of the sacred domain river surged over and gathered within this sharp Dao aura. Following that, this Dao aura tore through the void and all the laws as it blasted towards Ningqing. Ningqing didn't move at all, just as he said. Instead, he formed a space-collapsing spirit technique outside the protective domain formed by his own laws. Boom kacha. The ripple-patterned man's Dao aura slammed into Ningqing's protective domain. Ningqing's protective domain shattered and exploded into nothingness. The Dao charm laws that formed the protective domain exploded into nothingness at this moment. The ripple-patterned man's eyes flashed with joy before turning into shock. After easily shattering Ningqing's Dao charm domain, he discovered that Ningqing didn't have one protective domain but two. The first one was formed by the laws of the universe outside, while the second one was formed by Ningqing's own Dao charm laws. His attack tore through Ningqing's first protective domain, but it was devoured by the vast void within the second protective domain. Before he could figure out Ningqing's Dao charm laws, unless his strength could crush Ningqing, he couldn't tear through Ningqing's protective domain so easily. I didn't guess wrong. You also successfully condensed your own laws to create a realm and reach the third step. This is the strongest third step in the vast universe. In time, you will be the master of this universe. The man didn't seem to remember that he had just attacked Ningqing, but he couldn't do anything to Ningqing. Ningqing smiled faintly and didn't speak despite the man's praise. The man's eyes no longer looked relaxed, and his tone became dignified. That's right. If you hadn't condensed your own laws to create a realm, you wouldn't have survived in my sacred domain river. My sacred domain river is condensed by my Dao laws. Without my consent, no one in the entire light and dark universe would have survived. Therefore, you aren't from the light and dark universe. At this point, The man's tone became sharp. Since you aren't from the light and dark universe, and you can use your own laws to condense your own realm, why are you looking for trouble with me? We don't have anything to do with each other. Do you think that I, Tamu, can be bullied? Tamu? That name sounds very imposing. Ningcheng showed a sarcastic smile. This guy actually came up with such a speechless name. This guy's vision really wasn't just for show. However, this Tamu wasn't someone easy to deal with. If he could do anything to Ningcheng, it wouldn't have ended with just a try. Tamu's face turned gloomy, and like Ningcheng, he remained silent. Ningcheng's tone changed, and he spoke with a hint of sternness. Tamu, from the beginning to the end, you were the one who attacked this lord. Isn't it funny to say that we don't have anything to do with each other? If this lord hadn't condensed his own law realm, I'm afraid that you would have killed me a long time ago. You turtle bastard. How dare you say that we don't have anything to do with each other? Don't you have any shame? Tamu looked at Ningcheng in a daze. He didn't think that Ningcheng, a third-step expert who condensed his own laws into a realm, would speak like a child. Turtle bastard. Wasn't this too tasteless? Tamu's face quickly turned gloomy. This Dao friend, the sacred domain river is mine. The entire sacred domain river is condensed by my Dao charm. Dao friend, don't you know that? Dao friend, you entered my realm, yet you blame this lord for attacking you? Towards the end, Tamu seemed to have been influenced by Ningcheng and started to refer to himself as this lord. Ningcheng spoke up speechlessly. Tamu, you might be able to deceive others with your words, but don't you think it's a little lacking to deceive me? The sacred domain river is clearly a place of the light and dark universe. You forcibly occupied this place and wanted to use the laws you condensed to refine the sacred domain river and integrate it into your own realm. Do you still have the face to say that the sacred domain river is yours? Do you dare say that you've refined the sacred domain river? Tamu suddenly laughed. Is the sacred domain river part of the light and dark universe? Then let me tell you. When the light and dark universe first separated, I, Tamu, was taken in as a child by the light and dark sacred master to control the sacred domain river. The light and dark sacred master was a peerless powerhouse, and he took me in as a child to control the sacred domain river. Because my qualifications were too strong, the light and dark sacred master later accepted me as a disciple. But after the light and dark universe stabilized, the light and dark sacred master wanted to leave. Do you know what he did to me? At this point, Tamu's eyes filled with grief and indignation. He raped my Dao companion and then apologized to me, saying that it was unintentional. Ningcheng frowned and didn't speak. He could imagine what kind of powerhouse the light and dark sacred master was when the light and dark universe first separated. Such a powerhouse would rape his own disciple's Dao companion. It was the biggest joke in the world. Later, I found out that he wanted to leave the light and dark universe, but he couldn't find an excuse to imprison me in the sacred domain river. Before Tamu finished, Ningcheng understood. The light and dark sacred master wanted to leave the light and dark universe, but he was afraid that no one would control the sacred domain river. That's why he created trouble to make his disciple hate him. Then he imprisoned Tamu at the bottom of the sacred domain river and guarded it. But what was the point of guarding the sacred domain river? That's right, it must be the universe realm. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness finally saw two faint gray-colored spiritual soul lights passing through Tamu's body and stringing Tamu together. Obviously, the shackles that Tamu mentioned should be these two gray lights. No wonder you condensed your own laws but didn't evolve your own world. Instead, you wanted to refine the sacred domain river. Ningcheng suddenly understood. Tamu couldn't leave the sacred domain river. Ningcheng's tone was calm, but he was shocked in his heart. Who was the light and dark sacred master? A boy under him could also condense his own laws. How could this person be so powerful? Tamu understood what Ningcheng meant. He shook his head and said, "It's not like that. Even if I can leave the sacred domain river, I can't use my own laws to evolve a world and reach the third step. It's already a great opportunity for me to turn the sacred domain river into my own world of laws. Once I succeed in merging the realms, I can break free from the shackles and leave this place." Ningcheng's heart moved slightly. He seemed to have grasped something, but it wasn't very clear. Tamu, do you think that the light and dark sacred master didn't calculate that you would use the sacred domain river to create a realm here, and leave the light and dark universe with the sacred domain river after merging the realms? In order to merge the realms as soon as possible, the war between dark sky and bright sky must have something to do with you, right? Besides, I'm afraid that after you merge the realms, you won't leave the light and dark universe. You'll have to integrate the entire light and dark universe, Ningcheng said sarcastically. Tamu's tone became even sharper. The light and dark universe belongs to Qin Mutian. Since Qin Mutian treated me like this, what's wrong with me refining the light and dark universe? Don't think that I don't know what you're doing here. You want to use the sacred domain river to leave the light and dark universe. Since I, Tamu, can't escape Qin Mutian's hands. Tamu's words stopped, and then his shocked gaze fell on the good fortune divine spear behind Ningcheng. He completely forgot to continue speaking. Qin Mutian? That should be the name of the light and dark sacred master, right? No wonder this fellow named himself Tamu. Chapter 1438. After seeing the good fortune divine spear on Ningcheng's back, Tamu's tone suddenly became excited, and even a lot more polite. I wonder what this Dao friend's name is. Ningcheng. Seeing Tamu's gaze fall on the good fortune divine spear behind him, Ningcheng vaguely guessed something. Sure enough, after hearing Ningcheng's words, Tamu followed up. Brother Ning, the reason why Qin Mutian attaches so much importance to the sacred river is because you guessed it right. This is indeed the light and dark universe's cosmic surface. Is this the only way to leave the light and dark universe? Ningcheng felt overjoyed. Tamu spoke with a calm voice. If you have the ability, you can leave the light and dark universe from anywhere. You can tear apart any part of the universe with just a raise of your hand, so how can you talk about the cosmic surface? If you don't have the strength, the only way to leave the light and dark universe is through the sacred river. Ningcheng didn't ask Tamu about the bottom of the Jiaoliang Mountain's perpetual moon abyss. He guessed that even Tamu didn't know about that place. Since he couldn't figure out the reason for the perpetual moon abyss right now, he would eventually figure it out one day in the future. I want to leave through the sacred river. Ningcheng didn't bother to talk to Tamu anymore and spoke up straightforwardly. Tamu already knew what Ningcheng meant and spoke up in a straightforward manner. Sure, but I want to tell you that without my help, even if you kill me, you can't leave the light and dark universe. Unless one day you can tear apart the cosmic surface of the light and dark universe like Qin Mutian. Qin Mutian can tear apart the cosmic surface of the light and dark universe? Ningcheng asked in shock. He had guessed that Qin Mutian was strong, but to tear apart the cosmic surface, wasn't it a bit too powerful? Tamu spoke up. I'm talking about the time when he left. I'm afraid that his current strength is not comparable to what it was in the past. Ningcheng remained silent. If Qin Mutian was as powerful as Tamu said, then no one he had ever met was Qin Mutian's opponent, including Daoist Zixiao and Xingxi. Where did he go after leaving the light and dark universe? Ningcheng asked after a long silence. Tamu looked up blankly. After a while, he didn't know if he should answer Ningcheng's question, or just mumble to himself. Even if I leave the sacred river, do you think I can escape from him? Ningcheng knew that he couldn't let Tamu hesitate. If Tamu hesitated, it might cause even more trouble for him. Dao friend Tamu, no matter if you leave the sacred domain river or not, one thing is certain. If you leave, you might still have a chance to live. If you stay here, you won't have any chance at all. Tamu said that without his help, he wouldn't be able to leave the light and dark cosmos even if he killed him. Sure enough, after listening to Ningcheng's words, Tamu's spirit shook. Brother Ning, you are right. If I stay here, only death awaits me. However, if I leave, I would still have a chance of survival. That bastard Qin Mutian, I didn't expect you to come here. I also didn't expect you to have an offensive treasure refined by fusing the heaven-opening mother iron with the 5 elements divine water. Brother Ning, as long as you use your magical weapon to break the shackles on me, I can help you get out of this place. Ningcheng already knew that Tamu wanted to make this request. Therefore, he spoke up without hesitation. Naturally, I can help you get out of here. You can help me leave. Come with me. After Tamu finished speaking, his figure flashed and turned into a ripple before disappearing into the coral. Ningcheng stepped in without hesitation. After stepping into the coral, Ningcheng understood that this was a void array entrance. Sure enough, after he landed, he saw a completely different scene. He appeared at the entrance of a magnificent and luxurious hall. You live in a good place. Ningcheng looked at Tamu in front of him and spoke with a calm voice. Tamu sneered. After you come in, you will know that I live in a good place. Ningcheng stepped into the hall and felt a Dao charm binding aura. Ningcheng immediately understood Tamu's words. This place was like raising pigs in a pen, and one couldn't cultivate at all. Tamu's voice arrived. If I hadn't left behind a few tricks, condensed my own laws, and started refining the sacred domain river, I would have no choice but to wait for death in this hall. Ningcheng didn't speak. Anyone who was locked in this place, unable to cultivate, unable to leave, and had to count the years every day, would find it torturous. It was even more torturous than any torture. Since Tamu could condense his own laws and break free from the shackles of this hall, it showed that he was an amazing talent. Come with me. Tamu led Ningcheng through the magnificent hall, and came to a staircase made entirely of water ripples. After walking along this staircase for a full hour, Ningcheng saw a ripple with a fish-like glow. Is this the sacred domain river in the heart of light and dark? Ningcheng asked. He could feel that this ripple with a fish-like glow was the sacred domain river behind the light and dark treasure tree, after he stepped into the third step of the heart of light and dark. Tamu nodded. It looks like you really went to the heart of light and dark. Yes, what you saw was indeed the same place as the ripple of the sacred domain river in the heart of light and dark. But if you had dared to enter from that place, these ripples would have torn you to pieces. Ningcheng didn't refute Tamu's words. Since Qin Mutian could tear the universe apart, he could indeed crush him. However, Qin Mutian wasn't here, and it wouldn't be easy for him to tear him to pieces with the means he had set up. It was fine as long as he knew what he was doing. Seeing that Ningcheng didn't speak, Tamu continued. Did you see the light and dark treasure tree? Qin Mutian deliberately left it there. Anyone who can see the light and dark treasure tree, or even sees it, is an outstanding person in the heart of light and dark. Such people's Tao laws are the most suitable to nourish the light and dark treasure tree. Ningcheng frowned. Isn't the light and dark treasure tree here for the light and dark universe? In Ningcheng's view, the light and dark treasure tree was the symbol of the light and dark universe. The existence of the light and dark treasure tree would continuously purify the light and dark universe's heaven and earth laws. Tamu spoke up sarcastically. The light and dark universe belongs to Qin Mutian. How could he let those ants in the light and dark universe benefit? The light and dark universe doesn't have a reincarnation cycle. After anyone falls, their soul and the Tao laws scattered between heaven and earth would be absorbed by the light and dark treasure tree to strengthen it. Therefore, even if I don't devour the Tao laws of those fallen powerhouses in the sacred domain river, their Tao laws would still be absorbed by the light and dark treasure tree. Amazing! Ningcheng took in a deep breath. Sure enough, the stronger they were, the more ruthless they became. For the sake of the supreme Tao, all living beings were nothing but ants in their eyes. Tamu spoke up calmly. What's so amazing about it? This ripple is suppressed by the light and dark treasure tree, and it has also merged with my spiritual soul. Anyone who wants to leave this place would turn into a part of the light and dark treasure tree's Tao laws. Moreover, every time someone gets swallowed by the light and dark treasure tree, my soul would become more integrated with the light and dark treasure tree. One day, will you become a part of the light and dark treasure tree? Ningcheng asked. Tamu nodded, but his expression remained calm. You're right. This part isn't the treasure tree's tree spirit, but a part of the treasure tree's Tao laws. Therefore, I can't let anyone leave the sacred domain river. But you're right. If I don't break the gray light shackling my spiritual soul, I wouldn't stand a chance. If I break it and leave this place, I would still have a chance to live. Ningcheng looked at Tamu and spoke with a cautious tone. Tamu, if you believe me, wait for me here for a few days. After a few days, I might come down from the place where the light and dark treasure tree resides. You want to snatch the light and dark treasure tree? Tamu finally spoke up in surprise. Ningqing spoke up with a decisive tone. Yes, I want to snatch the light and dark treasure tree. Ningqing didn't covet the light and dark treasure tree before. Firstly, he thought that the light and dark treasure tree belonged to the entire light and dark universe. Secondly, the light and dark treasure tree didn't have much use for him. He had just condensed his own world and knew how precious things like the light and dark treasure tree were. Now that he knew that the light and dark treasure tree not only couldn't bring any benefits to the light and dark universe, but also continuously absorbed the Tao laws of the light and dark universe. What reason did he have not to take away the light and dark treasure tree? Do you know how powerful Qin Mutian is? Even if Qin Mutian wasn't here, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to take away his light and dark treasure tree. Tamu stared at Ningqing and spoke. Ningqing showed a faint smile. I know how powerful Qin Mutian is. That's why I want to take away the light and dark treasure tree. Ningqing wasn't talking nonsense. Since Qin Mutian wasn't here, taking away the light and dark treasure tree was equivalent to cutting off one of Qin Mutian's arms. Even if he didn't take away the light and dark treasure tree, it wouldn't bring him any benefits. Instead, it would only make Qin Mutian stronger in the future. Maybe one day, he would have to face Qin Mutian. Seeing Tamu still in a daze, Ningqing spoke up. Dao friend Tamu, if I don't take away the light and dark treasure tree, then according to what you said, even if I helped you cut off the gray light, your aura would still remain under the light and dark treasure tree. Once Qin Mutian comes back, he might be able to grab you and bring you back to this place in the blink of an eye. Since you reminded me of this, aren't you afraid that I would suddenly go back on my words and refuse to send you away? Moreover, even if you took away the light and dark treasure tree, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to leave without leaving behind my aura. Tamu spoke with a desolate tone. Ningqing spoke up calmly. Dao friend Tamu, this is the second thing I wanted to discuss with you. I hope that when you leave, you can leave behind the sacred domain river. Just take away your grand Dao's Dao charm. Leave behind the sacred domain river? Tamu looked at Ningqing in disbelief. He had refined the sacred domain river for countless years, and finally reached this step. How could he leave it behind just like that? Ningqing stared at Tamu and said, Dao friend Tamu, there's a saying that you can't bear to part with something. If you give up the sacred domain river, then you might get more. At the very least, I can guarantee that Qin Mutian wouldn't be able to find you again. That's impossible. As long as the sacred domain river still exists, Qin Mutian can find me. Tamu shook his head without hesitation. Ningqing spoke up word by word. You're right. Because after you leave behind the sacred domain river, the sacred domain river will no longer exist. Why? Do you want to take away the sacred domain river? Tamu stared at Ningqing in doubt. Ningqing spoke up proudly. I don't want to take away the sacred domain river. I want to evolve the 6 paths, turn the sacred domain river into the 6 paths of reincarnation, and turn it into the samsara realm of the heart of light and dark. Chapter 1439. Tamu stared at Ningqing for a long time before speaking up. Dao friend Ning, since you can condense your own laws to evolve a world, you can say that you already stand at the peak. I believe that one day, you will be able to do what you just said, turning the Saint Domain River into the 6 paths reincarnation. But now, do you know what the samsara realm is? Do you know how difficult it is to build the samsara realm? Ningqing didn't speak. Instead, he raised his hand and brought out the first bridge of coping and the second bridge of looking home. The 2 bridges were taken out, and Taoist rhymes surged. The bridge of helplessness and the bridge of homesickness were far from the level of reincarnation, but the chilly wind and sea of blood had already told Tamu that this was where ghosts should go. Ningqing also used these 2 bridges to tell Tamu that if he could condense the bridge of coping and the bridge of looking home, he could evolve the Tao of samsara. Fellow Taoist Takumu, have you seen 7th bridge before? If you agree with me, I can build 7 bridges in the sacred domain river. I said I could create a reincarnation passage. If you still don't believe me, then we can go our separate ways after I take the light and darkness treasure tree. Whether you want to take away the sacred domain river or not, it has nothing to do with me. After Ningcheng finished speaking, he raised his hand and rolled up the futility bridge and looking home bridge. Tamu looked at the place where Ningcheng had brought out the twin bridges in shock. Even if he didn't understand it, he knew that this was indeed a method to construct the samsara realm. For Ningcheng to use such a method, it showed that Ningcheng truly had the ability to construct the samsara realm. Ningcheng was not bragging. If he had not stepped into the third step, then he would have just been bragging. Now he had condensed his own laws and even developed his own world. Even though he had the 7 bridges divine power, he still lacked the 7th reincarnation bridge. In fact, this wasn't a problem for him. Previously, he didn't have a way. Now he could use his own laws to condense the 7th bridge and deduce the 7th reincarnation bridge. There were 3 reasons why Ningcheng wanted to help the light and dark cosmos construct the reincarnation realm. First, he wanted to take away the light and dark treasure tree. This reincarnation realm would be equivalent to him helping the light and dark cosmos with something. Secondly, if he constructed the reincarnation realm in the light and dark cosmos, the light and dark cosmos would gradually lose its connection with Qin Mutian. Otherwise, the light and darkness universe would always be Qin Mutian's backyard. All the people in the light and dark cosmos were like animals that Qin Mutian reared. He could kill and refine them whenever he wanted. He still had a few friends in the Yin-Yang cosmos. Not to mention Nong Shirua and Tang Hua. Even Wang, who had stayed behind, was on good terms with him. Thirdly, he wanted to make use of the light and darkness cosmos to construct the reincarnation realm and derive the 7th reincarnation bridge to perfect his 7 bridges divine power. Fellow Taoist Taku, although we don't bother with trifles when it comes to cultivation, we won't restrain ourselves for the great Tao. However, in the vast universe, there were still karmic connections. If fellow Taoist Tamu believes me, then let's work together to build the light and dark universe's reincarnation realm. He could also make himself feel at ease, and the Tao would be more spacious. If Tamu doesn't believe me, then pretend I didn't say anything. However, the light and dark treasure tree is mine. Ningcheng spoke another sentence. Regardless of whether Tamu agreed with his words or not, Ningcheng would not try to persuade him even half a word. As for how many deaths treading screen had caused in the light and dark universe, it had nothing to do with him. Tamu took a deep breath and said, "Brother Ning, I believe you. If you can really take away the light and dark treasure tree, I will give up the sacred domain river and join forces with you to build the light and dark universe's reincarnation realm." Okay. In that case, fellow Taoist Tamu, please wait here for a moment. After Ningcheng finished, he raised his hand and tore the void in front of him. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. Tamu sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw the place where Ningcheng disappeared. He knew that Ningcheng was strong, but this was just too strong. How could he tear apart the sacred domain river's boundary? The sacred domain river was the place where he refined it, which was equivalent to his boundary. How could Ningcheng tear it apart so easily? No wonder he dared to come here, and wasn't afraid of him making a move. If he really attacked Ningcheng, Tamu's soul would have already perished. This person's future achievements would definitely not be any weaker than Qin Mutian's. Ningcheng had already escaped to the light and dark heart. He wasn't as powerful as Tamu said. When he first entered the sacred domain river, he really couldn't tear apart the sacred domain river's boundary. Later, after he absorbed Tamu's Dao Charm River and followed Tamu into the main hall, he saw the rippling surface of the universe. At that time, Ningcheng could already tear apart Tamu's imperfect domain. Every battle between the light and darkness heavens would last for several years. In the end, they would fight until the sky turned dark and countless powerhouses fell. Only then would they have to stop fighting. But this time, the battle had just started, and it hadn't even fully formed when Ningcheng interrupted it. In the light heavens, Ningcheng didn't just do this. Not only did Ningcheng raise Holy Lord Jujin's cave mansion, but he also took away the 5-colored star splitter bow. If this had happened in the past, the Holy Lord would have already roared thunderously. Not only did the Holy Lord not say anything, but even the 10 Dao Lords didn't mention a word about Ningcheng. As for the Yu clan, after Ningcheng killed Yu Shi, They started to withdraw from the light sacred domain. The light heavens remained calm, but more and more people went to the heart of light and darkness. There was a rumor in the light heavens that the reason why Ningcheng became so powerful in such a short time was because he had gone to the heart of light and darkness. Some people even saw Ningcheng's flying weapon to the heart of light and darkness. Whether it was because of this rumor or not, the number of people in the heart of light and darkness was indeed several times more than before. At the same time, Ningcheng's strength was also many times stronger than before. Others would need several months to cross the road, but he could cross it in just one step. No matter how many people there were in the periphery of the heart of light and darkness, it would be difficult to find Ningcheng's traces. The heart of light and darkness looked no different from before. After Ningcheng came to the heart of light and darkness, he didn't stop at all, and directly stepped into the depths of the heart of light and darkness. As he expected, he didn't see Yuan Mao. Ningcheng wasn't worried that Yuan Mao would take away the light and darkness treasure tree. With Yuan Mao's strength, it might not be enough to take away the light and darkness treasure tree. As soon as he entered the heart of light and darkness, there was a chaotic aura of laws everywhere. However, the protective Dao rune laws around Ningcheng had already condensed by himself. The violent Dao runes of the heart of light and darkness couldn't devour the Dao runes around Ningcheng at all. Ningcheng had been here once, so he knew that the heart of light and darkness would only appear when he evolved a world. Ningcheng raised his hand and waved out new Dao rune laws to simulate the evolution of a world. For Ningcheng, who had already stepped into the third step, condensing laws to evolve a world was a trivial matter. Sure enough, when the laws began to condense and evolve, a rainbow rose. Behind the rainbow was a giant tree surrounded by black and white Dao runes. This time, Ningcheng could clearly see that it was the light and darkness treasure tree. The rainbow that appeared before the light and darkness treasure tree was just a cover. What really existed was a powerful defensive restriction. Ningcheng didn't hesitate at all. He took a step forward and shot the Creation Divine Spear at the rainbow. Boom! The Creation Divine Spear slammed into the array foundation of the rainbow. With just one strike, a crack appeared on the rainbow. A Dao rune aura that could melt everything between heaven and earth swept over. Ningcheng didn't wait for this aura to lock onto him. Instead, he turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the crack. Even when Qin Mutian arranged the rainbow restriction, he didn't expect that someone could tear apart the rainbow restriction with a single strike. To shatter the rainbow restriction with a single strike, in addition to having a peerless cultivation in the array Dao, one also needed a peerless weapon. Even so, as long as one couldn't shatter the rainbow restriction with a single strike, the light and darkness treasure tree wouldn't wait for a second attack, and would automatically hide. Ningcheng's Creation Divine Spear was refined from the heaven-opening Iron Mother, and the 5 elements Spirit Water. Coupled with Ningcheng's understanding of the array Dao and his own strength, it only took a single strike to blast apart the rainbow. Sensing the law of light and darkness aura, Ningcheng confirmed that it was indeed the light and darkness treasure tree. Without hesitation, he grabbed a handful of array flags and threw them out. The array flags that Ningcheng threw out turned into nothingness in the shortest time possible. At the same time, the sacred domain river under the light and darkness treasure tree suddenly rippled, bringing with it light and darkness laws that wrapped around Ningcheng. Ningcheng's entire body froze. He couldn't even throw out the next handful of array flags. Seeing that the light and darkness treasure tree was about to disappear under the endless law of light and darkness, Ningcheng's Dao runes surged and broke free from the shackles. He couldn't let the light and darkness treasure tree disappear. Once the light and darkness treasure tree disappeared, the power of the attack would increase by several times. Since the light and darkness treasure tree was here, the first attack would have to take into account the light and darkness treasure tree. At the same time, Tamu, who was at the bottom of the sacred domain river, shook, and the Dao rune aura crazily poured into the rippling water surface on the surface of the universe. If he hadn't made the deal with Ningcheng, Tamu would have mobilized the Dao rune laws of the entire sacred domain river to help him kill Ningcheng. But at this time, Tamu frantically controlled his Dao rune aura, and even threw out array flags to prevent himself from merging into the rippling water surface on the surface of the universe. Even if he couldn't help Ningcheng, he absolutely couldn't help Qin Mutian. Boom! The law-breaking finger slammed into the light and darkness law aura. The light and darkness law paused for a moment, and the light and darkness treasure tree's disappearance also slowed down. Ningqing knew that Tamu must have helped him. Otherwise, the Dao rune aura on the rippling water surface wouldn't have abruptly stopped. But now wasn't the time to thank Tamu. The Dao rune laws in Ningcheng's domain burst like water from a broken dam, and turned into Dao law aura one after another. When these Dao laws collided with the light and darkness law, Ningqing once again shot out with his spear. Traceless collapse. This was a spirit technique condensed from his own laws, traceless collapse. The almost substantial light and darkness law tore apart, and the traceless collapse formed layers of dislocation space. These dislocation spaces swept away the torn light and darkness law aura. Ningqing knew that the time had come. He once again grabbed a handful of array flags and threw them out. The hidden light and darkness treasure tree suddenly paused, and the laws around Ningqing condensed. Dao runes roared, and a powerful force trembled within the laws. Then the array formation swept away the light and darkness treasure tree, and brought it into Ningcheng's domain at the fastest speed. Chapter 1440. When Ningcheng swept away the light and darkness treasure tree, the surrounding light and darkness Dao charm suddenly stopped. It felt as if it had lost its direction and turned chaotic. A crack also appeared on the rippling water surface. Ningcheng's Dao charm circulated around him, and the realm domain turned into protective laws to protect him. Then he stepped into the crack on the rippling water surface. Even without Tamu's help, the remnant Dao charm still tore apart Ningcheng's protective realm domain. But it couldn't stop Ningcheng. Ningcheng fell to the bottom of the sacred domain river, without any danger. You really did it. Tamu stared at Ningcheng, who stepped out of the rippling water surface in shock. Although he didn't help Qin Mutian, it wasn't easy for Ningcheng to block the light and darkness Dao charm law's defensive array and attack left behind by Qin Mutian. Then, Tamu's gaze fell on the good fortune divine spear on Ningcheng's back. In his opinion, this spear had helped Ningcheng a lot. Ningcheng shook the long spear in his hand, and turned it into two spear patterns that blasted towards the two gray lights that passed through Tamu's body. A grand Dao charm aura swept over, and Tamu's body trembled. He seemed to feel the grand Dao aura of the universe's first split in this Dao charm. This aura felt like a giant bell from the desolate era, and it baptized his entire body. From this, he could feel that Ningcheng's grand Dao was no weaker than Qin Mutian's. Although Qin Mutian had schemed against him, he had to admit that if it weren't for Qin Mutian, he, Tamu, would only be an ordinary cultivator with slightly better qualifications than ordinary cultivators. When Tamu felt Ningcheng's powerful Dao charm attack, he became even more determined. He must ask Ningcheng about the grand Dao before separating from him. Boom, boom. The two spear lights, which seemed to split the vast universe, slammed into the gray lights that passed through Tamu's soul. Tamu screamed, and the Dao charm laws on the two gray lights shattered layer by layer. In a blink of an eye, they turned into nothingness. Tamu sobered up and jumped a few times. The Dao charm aura of the sacred domain river crazily poured into his body. In a short time, he grew into a handsome man. The Dao charm around him seemed to be able to tear apart all power at any time. Ningqing did not move, and quietly waited for the treading curtain to appear. Indeed, 2 hours later, the surging Dao aura from the sacred domain river disappeared, and the Dao laws around the footscreen stabilized completely. Many thanks, Dao Lord Ning. Tamu bowed to Ningcheng. At this moment, his admiration for Ningcheng came from the bottom of his heart. Not everyone could use the good fortune spirit spear to blast away the grayish spiritual soul radiating from his body, but Ningcheng did it with ease. His relief and gratitude came from the bottom of his heart. The gray light of his divine soul was blasted away. His whole body relaxed, as if the shackles that had been on his body for billions of years had been removed. Because of this, the way he addressed Ningcheng had turned into a respectful one. Ningcheng knew that the reason why he could blast away Tamu's spiritual soul's gray light so easily was not only because he had taken away the light and darkness treasure tree, but also because he had gained a deeper understanding of the laws of light and darkness left behind by Qin Mutian. Ningqing waved his hand. I should also thank you. When I took away the light and darkness treasure tree, if you hadn't resisted the pressure and didn't help Qin Mutian, I'm afraid I would have had to retreat. In fact, this was also the case. For Ningqing, if Ta Mu had helped the light and darkness treasure tree when he took it away, he would have died. Although his life wouldn't have been in danger, he would have had to retreat from the heart of light and darkness. It would have been impossible for him to tear through the depths of the heart of light and darkness to reach the sacred domain river. Tao Lord Ning, you should have felt the exit of the surface of the universe, right? This ripple level is the surface of the universe. There are countless boundaries and planar entrances here. In the depths of the heart of light and darkness, through the rippled surface of the sacred domain river, you will reach the bottom of the sacred domain river. If you go through here, you will be able to leave the light and darkness universe. Ta Mu pointed to the rippled surface of the sacred domain river and spoke. Ningqing nodded. In fact, he had also felt it. This place was indeed made up of countless faces. Once he turned the sacred domain river into the 6 paths of reincarnation, these faces would disappear without a trace. Apart from him, even if Qin Mutian wanted to return to the light and darkness universe, it wouldn't be that easy. Dao friend Ta Mu, I'm about to build the light and darkness universe's 6 paths of reincarnation in the sacred domain river. Since you're more familiar with the sacred domain river, I hope you can help me. Ningqing cupped his fists and said. Ta Mu nodded. Dao Lord Ning, please tell me. I've gained a lot in the light and darkness universe. Even if Dao Lord Ning didn't ask me to help, I would still want to do my best. Ningqing looked at Ta Mu in surprise. He felt that Ta Mu had changed a little. Ta Mu understood Ningqing's surprise and spoke without hesitation. My understanding of the Great Tao is much broader than before. This is the inspiration Tao Lord Ning gave me. The reason why the Great Tao is big is not for me. Ningqing nodded in appreciation. Ta Mu's words showed that his understanding of the Great Tao had indeed reached a new level. Ta Mu's original Great Tao was to absorb all the Tao charm that could be absorbed between heaven and earth, and condense his own world. For him, as long as his Tao could reach the Great Tao realm, everything in the world would serve him. Now he could understand that the Tao formed for himself, which disdained everything in the universe, was not the real Great Tao. This in itself was a kind of progress. Tao Lord Ning agrees with my understanding of the Tao. Ta Mu asked happily when he saw Ningqing nod. Ningqing pondered for a moment. Everyone's Tao will have different changes at different times because of their own understanding. It's already amazing that you can reach the Great Tao is big, not for me. Tao Lord Ning, please give me some pointers. Ta Mu said respectfully. He knew that Ningqing's Great Tao was many times stronger than his Tao. If he didn't ask Ningqing about this heaven-sent opportunity, he wouldn't have such a good person to guide him in the future. Ningqing felt the changes in Ta Mu and intentionally gave him a few pointers. Tao friend Ta Mu, I'll tell you a story. One day, a cultivator named Hui passed by a wine shop. He saw 2 young cultivators arguing over a flag. One of them said that the flag moved because of the wind and thought that the wind was moving. The other said that the wind was blowing because the flag was moving and thought that the flag was moving. Hui said that both of you were wrong. It wasn't the wind or the flag that was moving. It was the 2 of you who were moved. Ta Mu sighed. Sure enough, they were moved. Hui was truly a Tao Lord. After that, he saw that Ningqing didn't speak. His heart moved and he immediately asked, in Tao Lord's opinion, who is moving? Ningqing smiled. The Great Tao is the same as a person's vision. There are several realms. The first realm is to see the mountain as a mountain and the water as water. The second realm is to see the mountain as a mountain and the water as water. The third realm is to see the mountain as a mountain and the water as water. I think Hui's realm has reached the second realm, but he still needs to improve. Ta Mu instantly understood that whether the wind was moving, the flag was moving, or the heart was moving, it wasn't the highest realm. The highest Tao was seen by oneself, not by others. Ta Mu, may I ask for Tao Lord's Tao? Ta Mu's tone was even more respectful. My Tao. Ningqing looked up at the vast sacred region river, and didn't speak. A long time ago, his Tao was to become one. The universe gave birth to all things, and all things eventually became one. After he took the third step, his Tao was no longer to become one. If it's inconvenient for Tao Lord to say it, Ta Mu can understand. Ta Mu saw that Ningcheng didn't speak for a long time and felt frightened, so he quickly spoke up. Ningcheng retracted his gaze and looked at Ta Mu with a smile. I'm here, the Tao is here. I'm here. The Tao is here. This is my Tao. I'm here. The Tao is here. It was like a thunderclap in Ta Mu's heart. At this moment, Ta Mu seemed to see the vast and boundless universe and the vast and boundless aura of primal chaos. Just when he realized that the reason why the Grand Tao was so big was not because of him, Ningcheng's Grand Tao enlightened him. Perhaps he would never understand the true meaning of, I'm here, the Tao is here. However, he could feel the majestic aura of the universe. This was a true supreme expert. This was the true path to the great Tao. Tao Lord Ning, Ta Mu has learned a lot. Tao Lord, please evolve the 6 Taos and build the Samsara realm. Even if I die here, I will be satisfied, Ta Mu said respectfully. Hearing the Tao in the morning and dying in the evening was Ta Mu's current mood. If he built the Samsara realm this time, he would still be alive. He had a hunch that he would climb to a new peak. As he looked at Ningcheng, his heart was full of admiration and respect. I, Ta Mu, will never be able to reach Tao Lord Ning's height in my life, so let me become one of your followers. Chapter 1441. Okay, then let's start evolving the 6 paths of reincarnation. Ningcheng waved his hand, and the Tao charm laws began to condense, slowly forming the first bridge of coping. A faint gray river flowed slowly under the bridge of coping, and the remaining ghosts in the sacred river were quickly swept over. The slowly flowing gray river then began to churn. Those ghosts, like blood, merged into the gray river, and the color of the gray river changed from faint gray to light red. Ta Mu continuously stripped the undevoured ghosts from his Tao charm, and sent them under the bridge of coping. A cold wind formed on the bridge of coping, mixed with whimpering sounds. Ningcheng stood still and waved his hand again, forming another bridge outside the bridge of coping. The earth-yellow stone arch bridge was filled with endless nostalgia. The gray-yellow land crisscrossed in front of the stone arch bridge, and ghosts passed through the village path in an instant. The 3 words "looking home bridge" were filled with homesickness. Step on this bridge, don't look back. Without Ningcheng's instructions, Ta Mu had already completed the Tao charm laws for Ningcheng's bridge of coping and looking home bridge. Although Ta Mu had condensed his own Tao laws, he had been in the light and dark world for a long time, and also controlled the laws of light and dark. Before Qin Mutian left the light and dark universe, the light vault opened for the first time. As Qin Mutian's closest confidant, he entered the light vault. Not only that, but he also obtained the light origin bead and darkness origin bead from the light vault. Whether it was for the darkness origin bead or the light origin bead, Ta Mu was the one who started the war between darkness origin bead and light origin bead. Since Ta Mu had the light origin bead for so long, he naturally controlled the laws of light and dark. Ningcheng's Tao charm laws melted the water of the sacred river, turning it into various Tao charm auras. These Tao charms also constantly merged with the bridge of coping and looking home bridge. Ningcheng had already evolved the 3rd forgetting river bridge. The bridge was shrouded in mist, which gradually merged with the sacred river charms, adding a bit of netherworld aura to it. The 4th Yellow Springs Bridge, the 5th Reincarnation Bridge, the 6th Permitha Bridge. Ningcheng continued to evolve one bridge after another, from the blue bridge under the surging yellow river to the reincarnation bridge's Tao charm black river in the middle of the Permitha Bridge. Flowers bloomed and withered for billions of years, flowers and leaves never to be seen again. Before the 6 bridges were connected, Ta Mu could vaguely sense the aura of a realm. Ningcheng had fused with the sacred domain river's aura and connected it to his 6 bridges, which made it even easier for treading screen to perfect the Tao charm of Ningcheng's various bridges. After all, he had fused with the sacred domain river for many years, and no one was more familiar with the sacred domain river than him. What puzzled him was that Ningcheng had constructed the samsara realm, and he didn't feel any samsara. What made him even more puzzled was that even though Ningcheng said that he could evolve the 6 Taos, He did not feel any six daos. He also knew that this was not the time to ask questions. Even if he wanted to ask Ningcheng, he would have to wait until Ningcheng finished constructing the Samsara realm. For Ningcheng, the first 6 bridges did not consume much of his strength. He easily fused the Saint Domain River and the 6 bridges to form the first 6 bridges. However, Ningcheng himself did not have a 7th bridge. If he wanted to materialize the reincarnation bridge, he had to rely on his understanding of the reincarnation Tao, which he had attained after reaching the 3rd step. Luckily, Ningcheng had seen Yi Mo use Samsara bridge, so he wasn't without confidence at all. The Tao waves of the 6 bridges were getting stronger, and it was getting harder and harder to perfect the step curtain. He looked at Ningcheng worriedly. If Ningcheng formed the 6 bridges, but couldn't control the Tao waves of the 6 bridges, the 6 bridges would explode along with the Saint Domain River. Even the light and dark universe would not be able to withstand the explosion of this Tao wave law. Ningcheng had already noticed this before he formed the 6 bridges. The 6 bridges could be used as a god art to attack the opponent, and this Tao wave would sweep towards the opponent. Now that the 6 bridges wanted to construct Samsara, this Tao wave needed a Samsara passage. Otherwise, the entire light and dark universe would explode into ruins. 7th bridge Samsara condense. Ningcheng stepped across the 6th Permitha bridge and crossed over the Manjasaka flower. Standing on the mandala flower, he raised his hand and waved out a majestic Tao charm. As the majestic Tao rune laws were unleashed, a faint reincarnation aura slowly condensed and formed a faint arch stone bridge. Time and age chi flowed and turned into the heaven-earth Samsara Tao wave. This Samsara Tao wave continued to flow. At first it flowed slowly, but towards the end, it started to tumble. This tumbling chi grew stronger and stronger, forming waves of berserk Tao wave aura. Ningcheng took another step forward and stood on top of this tumbling Tao wave. The berserk reincarnation bridges aura couldn't merge with the previous 6 bridges. Obviously, Ningcheng's reincarnation bridge didn't succeed. Tamu looked at Ningcheng, who was standing on top of the reincarnation Tao wave. In horror and despair filled his heart. This terrifying aura couldn't be controlled. Once the Tao wave laws exploded, Tamu's soul would perish. Drops of sweat oozed from Ningcheng's pale face. He had overestimated his ability. Perhaps he had the ability to form the 7th reincarnation bridge, but he couldn't construct the light and dark universe's Samsara realm. The flow of time gradually broke away from Ningcheng's control. Even if Ningcheng controlled the 3 time realms, he couldn't stop this flow. Tao Lord Ning, let me turn into reincarnation to suppress. Tamu knew that if he didn't turn into reincarnation to suppress this berserk Samsara aura, it would destroy everything. You can't suppress it either. Although Ningcheng's face was pale, his tone was still calm. Tamu fell silent. He knew that Ningcheng was right. He couldn't suppress this Samsara aura either. He wasn't strong enough. I said to develop the 6 paths and build the reincarnation Tao. Ningcheng murmured to himself. When he said this, his mind shook. He found that he was wrong. He had never developed the 6 paths. The 6 paths were just a legend on Earth. He had always thought that he was developing the 6 paths. In fact, although he was building the Samsara realm, he had developed the 7 bridges, which had nothing to do with the 6 paths. I, Ningcheng, will develop the 7 bridges today and build the reincarnation passage of the light and dark universe. From now on, the fallen of the light and dark universe will no longer be reincarnated, nor will they find a place to hide their souls. From now on, this realm will be called the Light and Dark 7 Bridges Reincarnation Realm. Ningcheng's clear voice lingered in the sacred domain river, and then spread to the entire 7 bridges. As the Tao charm of Samsara fluctuated, Ningcheng's voice spread out of the sacred domain river, and resounded throughout the entire light and dark universe. Feeling the Tao charm fluctuations of the reincarnation bridge being suppressed by his voice, Ningcheng waved his hand without hesitation and brought out the Light and Darkness Treasure Tree. Light and Darkness Treasure Tree, transform. In the next moment, the Light and Darkness Treasure Tree turned into the Light and Darkness Laws. The boundless Tao laws merged into the 7 bridges. The originally violent 7 bridges instantly calmed down. The sacred domain river began to evolve, turning into a boundless world. The reincarnation Taoist rhyme spread throughout this world like a gentle breeze and drizzle. Bridge of helplessness, bridge of nostalgia, bridge of forgetfulness, bridge of yellow springs, bridge of rebirth, bridge of Permitha, bridge of reincarnation. The 7 bridges were formed, and the Tao of Samsara was born. The Tao aura of the reincarnation realm surged, and everything was reincarnation. You were born and came here to be reincarnated. Even if you perish, coming here is still reincarnation. Glory, splendor, wealth and rank are all gone. Once they entered reincarnation, everything would be the same. Helplessness on the top, not looking at home, looking back to forget the river Yellow Springs. In the boundless Yellow Springs, there is no good or evil. On the bridge of rebirth, the body turns into dust. Wanting to return to the other shore to be reincarnated, once you enter this bridge, you will never return. Ningcheng stood on the endless reincarnation Taoist rhyme without any sadness or joy in his eyes. The light and darkness treasure tree disappeared and turned into the light and darkness laws, stabilizing the reincarnation realm and connecting it to the reincarnation bridge. Ningcheng didn't care about the disappearance of the light and darkness treasure tree. This was something that belonged to the light and dark universe. Now that the reincarnation realm had turned into the light and dark universe, it would return to where it came from. What surprised him was that when he evolved the reincarnation bridge and announced the construction of the reincarnation realm, his 7th reincarnation bridge also condensed. Tamu felt relaxed. He saw the 6 reincarnation bridges, and the reincarnation bridge formed the reincarnation Taoist rhyme. After fusing with the light and darkness treasure tree, the realm formed and disappeared along with the sacred domain river. At this moment, his body trembled with excitement. He knew that the reincarnation realm had really been formed, and he was lucky enough to be one of the creators of the reincarnation realm of the light and dark universe. Even if he helped Ningcheng a little, it would still be a great honor for him. At the same time, whether it was light heaven or darkness heaven, everyone stared at the void in shock. Ningcheng's clear voice rang out, and everyone heard it clearly. At this moment, the light and dark universe condensed the 7 bridges reincarnation realm. The light and dark universe would no longer be a realm without reincarnation. The light and dark universe would also enter a new era. Rolling thunder sounded in the void of the light and dark universe, and golden characters appeared in the void. Ningcheng used the sacred domain river to evolve the 7 bridges and fuse with the light and darkness treasure tree to build the light and dark universe's 7 bridges reincarnation realm. The formation of the light and dark universe is the first year of the light and dark era. Those who helped Tamu. Looking at the golden characters that contained the aura of the heavenly Tao, almost everyone from the light and dark universe became excited. Everyone knew that there was no reincarnation in the light and dark universe. As for why there was no reincarnation, it was only because the light and dark sacred master disdained constructing reincarnation. But today, a man named Ningcheng used the sacred domain river and the light and darkness treasure tree to evolve the 7 bridges reincarnation path. From now on, the light and dark universe entered the reincarnation era and changed to the first year of the light and dark era. From now on, the light and dark universe would have faith and color because of reincarnation. Brother Ning, thank you. This is something that my father couldn't do, but you've done it for the light and dark universe. In a distant corner of the light and dark universe, a woman stood up from her seclusion and looked at the golden characters floating in the void. He actually constructed the 7 bridges reincarnation realm. Outside the rebuilt sacred master's residence, Zhu Jin looked at the golden Tao runes in the void in shock. Who is this Ningcheng? Not only can he stop the war between light and darkness heaven, but he also constructed the 7 bridges reincarnation realm? In the deepest part of darkness heaven, a man who had almost completely integrated with the laws of space suddenly stood up. He couldn't believe it. Chapter 1442. Tao Lord Ning, you did it, and so did I. Tamu finally calmed down from his excitement. He and Ningcheng had completed one of the greatest things since the creation of the universe, which was the construction of the samsara realm. Tamu believed that even if he only had a few opportunities in the future, he would climb to another peak because of the construction of the samsara realm. Yes, we did it. Ningcheng was also a little excited. After constructing the 7 bridges samsara realm of the light and dark universe, it also meant that his understanding of Tao had improved. This wasn't just about perfecting the 7 bridges spirit technique. Do you want to stay in the light and dark universe or leave here? Ningcheng calmed down and asked. Tamu didn't hesitate. Tao Lord Ning, because of Qin Mutian's selfishness, the light and dark universe isn't even a universe but a realm. If Tao Lord Ning hadn't created the samsara realm, the light and dark universe wouldn't even be a realm. I want to leave here and find the true meaning of the universe. Ningcheng nodded. Tamu was right. Compared to the vast and majestic 5 elements universe, the light and dark universe was too weak. It was like a teenager who hadn't fully developed. The development of the universe was also imprisoned. This made Ningcheng see through the light and dark sacred lord's thoughts. He had imprisoned the light and dark universe and made it his exclusive property. Okay, I hope you can go to the next level and find your own Tao. Ningcheng raised his hand and waved out a Tao charm. A mysterious passage appeared in the 7 bridges samsara realm. This passage was the place where Tamu had said to leave the light and dark universe. The only difference was that Qin Mutian had given Tamu control of the passage to leave the light and dark universe. Now that Ningcheng had built the 7 bridges samsara realm, he had taken over the passage to the outside universe. Tao Lord Ning will meet again. After Tamu finished speaking, he stepped into the passageway without hesitation. He believed that after building the 7 bridges samsara realm with Ningcheng, his path would be extremely wide. In his eyes, Ningcheng and Qin Mutian were peerless powerhouses, and the kind of kings who stood above everyone else. However, Ningcheng and Qin Mutian were 2 completely different people. Qin Mutian could sacrifice everything for his great Tao. Qin Mutian could sacrifice everything for his Tao. Because of this, Qin Mutian treated the light and darkness universe as his exclusive property. He locked it up and didn't allow anyone to touch it. However, Ningcheng was willing to take out the light and darkness treasure tree to develop the 7 bridges for the light and darkness universe, and build the reincarnation Tao. He didn't know which Tao was stronger, but he agreed with Ningcheng's words. Looking at the mountains was still a mountain, looking at the water was still water. Giving the light and dark treasure tree to the light and dark universe might be a deeper interpretation of Tao. The moment treading screen left, Ningcheng knew that treading screen would definitely reach a higher peak, and it was even possible for him to truly construct his own world of laws. I should also go back. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness swept out of the samsara realm and muttered to himself. After leaving this time, he didn't know if he would have the chance to return. After all, the light and dark universe was not his world, and it was not a place he wanted to stay. Compared to the 5 elements universe, the light and darkness universe was much more restricted. Tao Lord Ning, Tao Lord Ning. Just as Ningcheng was about to step into the domain passage and leave, a crisp voice called out anxiously from the original location of the sacred domain river. The original location of the sacred domain river had disappeared, and was replaced by a continuous mountain range. This continuous mountain range separated the radiant sky and the dark sky. Perhaps after countless years of evolution, the radiant sky and the dark sky would completely merge. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness swept out of the 7 bridges samsara realm, and saw a stunning woman. In terms of appearance, perhaps only Xingxi and Yuqing could compare to her. Ningcheng felt a little puzzled. He had never seen this woman before. Tao Lord Ning, I know you can definitely see me. My name is Wu Ziyuan, and I am willing to do anything for Tao Lord. I only ask Tao Lord to see me. The stunning woman's tone became more and more anxious, as if she knew that Ningcheng was about to leave the light and dark universe. Wu Ziyuan? Ningcheng shook his head. He didn't have any impression of her. You and I were fated to be married in our previous lives. I asked Tao Lord to see me. Seeing that Ningcheng didn't show up, Wu Ziyuan spoke even more anxiously. Ningcheng smiled slightly. If Wu Ziyuan hadn't said the last sentence, he might have gone up to see Wu Ziyuan. But after Wu Ziyuan spoke the last sentence, Ningcheng no longer had even half a shred of interest. He stepped into the passage, and the next moment he disappeared. As an expert who could condense his own law world, If Wu Ziyuan had a relationship with him in her previous life, how could he not have sensed it? From this, it could be seen that this woman had something to ask of him, and she even used such a lying method. The moment Ningqing disappeared from the samsara realm, Wu Ziyuan seemed to have sensed it, and her whole body went limp. You're very beautiful, but I don't think anyone in this universe can use their beauty to get him to do anything. A calm voice appeared in Wu Ziyuan's ear. Wu Ziyuan suddenly woke up. She looked up at the woman standing not far away, and after a while she asked, "Who are you?" "My name is Nong Shirua." The woman's tone was still calm. "You're Nong Shimu's daughter?" Wu Ziyuan asked in surprise. Nong Shirua nodded. "I know what you want Big Brother Ning's help with. I want to tell you that Big Brother Ning isn't a match for Sacred Lord Light and Darkness. If you ask him to help you deal with Sacred Lord Light and Darkness, you'll be harming him. Big Brother Ning created the samsara realm, but Qin Mutian still has the ability to return here. I have a way to stop Qin Mutian from returning here. But are you willing to help? You know my identity?" Wu Ziyuan looked at Nong Shirua in surprise. Nong Shirua nodded. "My father told me. If I didn't guess wrong, you're the descendant of Wu Yu, the true founder of the Light and Darkness universe. Don't ask me how I know, because I'm Nong Shimu's daughter." Wu Ziyuan looked at Nong Shirua in surprise. After a while she said, "Okay, I believe you. I'm also willing to help you stop Qin Mutian from returning." Nong Shirua nodded. She knew that Wu Ziyuan would definitely agree. Wu Ziyuan seemed to dislike Nong Shirua's matter-of-fact attitude and suddenly asked, "Since you're Nong Shimu's daughter, do you know about the Gate of Fortune?" This time, it was Nong Shirua's turn to be surprised. "What's the Gate of Fortune?" Wu Ziyuan regained her previous calmness and showed a slight smile. "The Gate of Fortune is something I want to discuss with Dao Lord Ning. I do want to kill Qin Mutian, but I'm not stupid enough to ask Dao Lord Ning for help. If you believe me, maybe one day, we can also go to the Gate of Fortune. That's the place to kill Qin Mutian. Only I know Qin Mutian's weakness. Without me, even if Dao Lord Ning defeats Qin Mutian, he might not be able to kill him." Nong Shirua nodded cautiously. "I believe you." Just as Ningqing had expected, the place he came out of was the Perpetual Moon Abyss. Standing in front of the Perpetual Moon Abyss once again, Ningqing once again felt the barrier of the universe. He knew that after he constructed the 7 bridges samsara boundary of the Light and Darkness universe, it would be difficult for outsiders to feel the cosmic barrier here. Ningqing raised his hand and tore through the void in front of him. With one step he landed on the edge of the Jiaoliang mountain outside the Fallen Soul Gorge. In the past, it had taken him decades to travel from the Perpetual Moon Abyss to this part of the universe. But today, he easily tore through this part of the void with just a lift of his hand. In just a single step, he had crossed a road that would have taken him 30 years to traverse. A day later, Ningqing walked out of the immortal falling boat void with an ugly expression. The time in the Light and Darkness universe was indeed different from the 5-element universe. To reach the 3rd step, he had spent 10,000 years in the Light and Darkness universe. However, 20,000 years had passed in the 5-element universe. He had promised Mu Wuxia that he would go to the Great Change Realm within 100 years, but now hundreds of years had passed. Was the Great Change Realm still around? Dao Lord Ning. Ningqing did not expect to see Mu Wuxia outside the immortal falling boat void again. Moreover, Mu Wuxia recognized him at a glance. Ningqing cupped his fists in shame and said, "Union Master Mu, I was trapped in a place and took too long to come back. I'm really sorry. How is the Great Change Realm now?" The Dao runes around Mu Wuxia's body condensed, and almost reached the middle stage Dao integration realm. It showed how hard he had worked in the Jiaoliang mountain over the years. Mu Wuxia's eyes dimmed as he said with a sigh, "The Great Change Realm is gone. Actually, it's not your fault. It's good that you didn't go. The demonic creatures in the underground abyss were too powerful. They were unbelievably powerful. Because of you, a 3rd-step expert from heavens beyond of heaven and earth went to the Great Change Realm to help. In the end, he almost died there." Mu Wuxia did not blame Ningqing for standing up to the appointment. He knew that Ningqing was not a person who would stand up to an appointment casually. Since Ningcheng had not reached the Great Change Realm in time, something must have happened. Later, the demonic creature's outbreak in the Great Change Realm proved that the result would be the same regardless of whether Ningcheng was there or not. The strength of that demonic creature was simply too powerful. A third-step expert almost died in the Great Change Realm? Who was it? Ningcheng immediately felt that something was wrong. He knew a little about those demonic creatures. Even if there was a third-step expert, it was just a false realm. Wuxia said solemnly. Tao Lord, you should know him. He came from the Nine Heavens realm, and is called Liao Qianluo. When he heard that Tao Lord Ning sealed the demonic creatures in the Great Change Realm, he immediately went to the Great Change Realm to help. Unexpectedly, his body was destroyed and he escaped with only his principal spirit. Liao Qianluo? Ningcheng was really shocked this time. Liao Qianluo was not an ordinary third-step expert, but an integration realm expert. He was not weaker than the 10 Tao Lords of the Light and Dark Universe. Such an expert entered the Great Change Realm, and only had his principal spirit left? How are the people in the Great Change Realm now? Very few people escaped. Most of them were forced to the edge of the Great Change Realm by the demonic creatures, and are barely alive. Wuxia sighed. Ningcheng was shocked. Shi Qianghua was still in the Great Change Realm. Once the demonic creatures completely seized the Great Change Realm, where would Qianghua go? At that moment, Ningcheng wished he could tear the void and step into the Great Change Realm. Chapter 1443. Tao Lord Ning, are you going to the Grand Change Realm? Seeing Ningcheng directly bring out the starry sky wheel, Wuxia asked in surprise. Ningcheng nodded. That's right, I do want to go to Grand Change City. Wuxia could tell that Ningcheng's strength had improved by another step, but what use would Ningcheng have to face a grand transformation devil? Even if Ningcheng was more powerful than several Liao Qianluos, so what? Tao Lord Ning, I heard that Tao Lord Thousand Falls's body was easily destroyed before he even got close to the abyss. It's obvious that the Great Change Realm is still sealed. It's basically... Ningcheng raised his hand to stop Wuxiao's words. Association Master Mu, because of this, I want to go there as soon as possible. I was the one who sealed the monsters in the Grand Change Realm. No matter how powerful they are, they probably aren't strong enough to easily destroy the body of a Tao Lord in the Grand Change Realm. But you told me that there are still people in the Great Change Realm who have been forced to the edge. If my guess is correct, there are only two reasons for this. First, the cultivators in the Great Change Realm have been captured by the demonic creatures. In this case, there was only one reason for their existence, and that was to let the demonic creatures train on human cultivators. Secondly, an expert passed by the Grand Change Realm and helped the demonic creatures destroy Tao Lord Thousand Luo's body. After that expert left, Tai Yi's human cultivators and the demonic beings were in a stalemate. No matter what, I have to go to the Great Change Realm as soon as possible because I still have family and friends there. The Grand Essence Realm had done such a thing before. The reason why the Grand Essence Demon Vein existed wasn't because the Grand Essence Tao Court couldn't destroy it, but because the Grand Essence Tao Court wanted to keep it for cultivators. Tao Monarch, can I go with you? Wuxia, who still had doubts about Ningcheng's decision, suddenly spoke up. Ningcheng looked at Wuxia in doubt. You want to go? Aren't you afraid of those monsters? Wuxia took a deep breath and said slowly, if I were to cultivate at this speed, I'm afraid it would take me tens of millions of years to reach the third step. I might never be able to reach the third step. Besides, even if I reach the third step, what can I do? I'm different from Tao Lord Ning. I've lived in the Grand Change Realm for countless years. Even Tao Lord Ning wants to return to the Great Change Realm for his friend. Let alone me, Wuxia. I have more friends and family there. If I die, then so be it. There will always be traces of cowardice in my heart. Wuxia finished saying all these in one breath, and felt a lot more relaxed. The reason why he desperately stayed here to cultivate was that the incident in the Great Change Realm had left a mark in his heart. But the more he did this, the slower his progress became. Even after 20,000 years of hard work, he was still unable to progress from the Tao integration initial stage to the intermediate stage. Ningcheng nodded. In that case, let's go together. If you want me, Ning Cheng, to fall, it's not that easy. Mu Wuxiao had just stepped into the starry sky wheel when the starry sky wheel shook slightly and disappeared without a trace. Mu Wuxiao's spiritual consciousness swept out and he asked in shock, "Is it tearing the void?" That's right. At this time, even if he didn't use the starry sky wheel, he could directly tear through the void and reach the Grand Change Realm in a short time. Even if he used the starry sky wheel, it would only take him less than half a day. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness fell on the Five Realms Void City. The once bustling Five Realms Void City had now turned into ruins. It had been desolate for an unknown period of time. Apart from a large number of demonic creatures, there was not a single cultivator here. Ning Cheng put away the starry sky wheel and landed in the void of the Five Realms Void City. The Five Realms Void City has become like this. The miserable state of the Five Realms Void City made Mu Wuxiao sober up from the shock of Ning Cheng's speed. Ning Cheng raised his hand and brought out a pale stone bridge. As soon as the stone bridge fell into the Five Realms Void City, violent yin qi swept out. Immediately after, the endless demonic creatures wandering in the Five Realms Void City were swept away by the pale stone bridge. In just half an incense stick worth of time, all the demonic creatures in the Five Realms Void City disappeared without a trace. First bridge of coping. Mu Wuxiao had seen Ning Cheng use the first bridge of coping before. Now that Ning Cheng brought out the first bridge of coping again, he knew that Ning Cheng was many times stronger than before. Even Dao Lord Thousand Luo from mysterious yellow heavens beyond couldn't compare to Ning Cheng. Then he felt pleasantly surprised. Since Ning Cheng was so strong, didn't it mean that he could destroy the demonic creatures in the Grand Change Realm? While Mu Wuxiao was still thinking about it, Ning Cheng once again tore the void and landed in the Grand Change Realm with Mu Wuxiao. The void of the Grand Change Realm had been sealed with a more powerful boundary protection restriction, but it wasn't a problem for Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng had been to the Grand Change Realm more than once. Not to mention that the Grand Change Realm was the most perfect realm among the five great realms. Even compared to the other planets, the Great Change Realm was far superior. Not only was the Grand Change Realm rich in divine spirit qi, but it also had a beautiful landscape and a complete set of Dao runes. It was the best place for cultivators. When Ning Cheng came to the Grand Change Realm again, he saw what it meant to be ruined. The rich divine spirit qi was polluted by all kinds of demonic creatures, and there were densely packed demonic creatures everywhere. The once beautiful sacred city had long become dilapidated, and had become the habitat of demonic creatures. As for the Dao courts that controlled the Grand Change Realm, they didn't exist at all. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could only sweep to the edge of the Grand Change Realm. There were billions of human cultivators, but almost none of them survived. He saw Yahua Dao Courts Dao Monarch Bai Ling and Grand Mystery Dao Courts Dao Monarch Jie Shui. As for Yin Xingwen of the Grand Change Realm, and the Dao Monarchs of the other Dao Courts, Ning Cheng didn't see any of them. Bai Ling and Jie Shui also looked haggard. Not only did their cultivation not improve, but their Dao runes were also a bit messy. The Dao court army controlled by the two of them was probably only 1/10 of what it was at its peak. Ning Cheng didn't see Shi Qianxi or Shi Qianghua, which made him a little worried. Mu Wuxiao's strength was far inferior to Ning Cheng's, and he couldn't sweep to the place where the Grand Change Realm cultivators were like Ning Cheng. At this moment, he stared blankly at the ruins of the Grand Change Realm. Even the divine spirit qi of heaven and earth had been polluted. His eyes were filled with guilt. As the leader of the Grand Change Realm Pilmeet, he didn't do anything when the Grand Change Realm's disaster came. Then he thought of Ning Cheng. He turned around and bowed to the ground. Dao Lord Ning, please help us destroy all the demonic creatures in the Grand Change Realm on account of us being part of the five grand lineages. Ning Cheng destroyed the demonic creatures in the void city of the five realms in the blink of an eye, and took only half a day to reach the Grand Change Realm from Jiaoliang Mountain. This made Mu Wuxiao believe that Ning Cheng's strength was far beyond his imagination. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness fell on the Scorched Tree Temple, the place where he had sealed the demonic creatures. What shocked him was that his spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate the bottom of the temple. Outside the Scorched Tree Temple, there was a new grand array. He might not be able to set up that grand array, which showed how strong the person who set up this grand array was. Previously, when the Grand Change Realm strengthened the barrier, Ningcheng had a feeling that a peerless powerhouse had arrived. Now that he saw the defensive array outside the Scorched Tree Temple, he was even more sure that a peerless powerhouse had come to the Grand Change Realm. Ningcheng secretly clenched his fists. Even if it was a powerhouse, he would get his revenge. Union Master Mu, even if you didn't say anything about the demonic creatures in the Grand Change Realm, I wouldn't have left a single one alive. I believe that the demonic creatures can break free from my seal. But do you think that the demonic creatures have the ability to invade the entire Grand Change Realm? Ningcheng looked at Mu Zuoxiao and asked. Mu Zuoxiao immediately understood what Ningcheng meant. Dao Monarch Ning, do you mean that someone helped? Ningcheng said with certainty. I'm 100% sure that someone helped, but I don't understand. Even if the Grand Change Realm is perfect, it's just a small realm in the vast Five Elements universe. Why would that powerhouse come to this place and make such a big fuss? For a moment, Ningcheng even felt that this was a trap set up for him. There was no reason for this feeling, but Ningcheng had this feeling. If it was a trap set up for him, why didn't he go to the Grand Essence Realm, or the heavens beyond of heaven and earth? Why did he come to the Grand Change Realm? Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness had already passed through the endless void and landed on the periphery of the Grand Essence Realm. The outside of the Grand Essence Realm was calm and tranquil, and there were no traces of fighting within the realm. Nirvana Nest. Bai Ling, Jie Xinshui, and the others only discovered this place after they came here. Or rather, they were forced to retreat to this place because they had nowhere else to go. Only after they arrived here did they realize that there was a Nirvana Flame Spring here. The Nirvana Flame Spring was the place where the seven-colored phoenix underwent nirvana. Unfortunately, after they came here, the Nirvana Flame Spring had already dried up, turning this place into a completely useless place. To avoid being strangled by the demonic creatures, they had no other place to go but this place. The only good news was that after they arrived here, the demonic creature's supreme powerhouse didn't continue to pursue them. However, they still didn't have a good time. There were too many demonic creatures on the periphery, and the demonic creatures kept killing human cultivators. As a result, their living space was getting smaller and smaller. Not even 1 out of 100 human cultivators survived in the Grand Change Realm. Despite this, they still renamed this place Nirvana Nest. In addition to the Nirvana Flame Spring, it also meant that human cultivators could undergo Nirvana rebirth here. At this moment, in the core of the Nirvana Nest, Bai Ling, Jie Xinshui, Wuxia Yoshin and other people with the highest cultivation sat in silence. At this rate, it would only be a matter of time before the human cultivators in the Grand Change Realm perished, let alone undergo Nirvana rebirth. It would not take more than 1,000 years at most. We have to leave the Grand Change Realm. If we continue to stay here, we can only wait for death. A young man broke the silence. His name was Zhu Yi, and he was an itinerant cultivator who had risen after the demonic creature seal was broken. Although he was only at the mid-stage Dao integration realm, he was extremely powerful, and had once killed a top-notch powerhouse among the demonic creatures. Bai Ling sighed. How do we leave? The entire Grand Change Realm is sealed, and people from the outside can't enter. We can only resign ourselves to our fate here. Bai Ling's words made everyone fall silent. This topic had been discussed countless times, and it always ended like this. No one could come up with a plan to leave. If they had, they would have left long ago. There's no need to leave. The demonic creatures should leave. A sudden voice broke the silence. Who's that? Wuxia Yoshin, who had the highest cultivation level, suddenly stood up. He actually didn't know when the other party had arrived. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.